And I know I only briefly introduced myself, but I feel it necessary among such well-qualified individuals to explain maybe my own credentials in geodesy, which isn't significant, but I've had a little bit of experience. I've had enough experience to be dangerous in the field, but not enough to be an expert, if I can put it that way. There are actually two people in this room who may well know this experience. One, Hans Jorg, and the other is Jeff Bell there, who I worked with in Northern Ireland. I'm 40 years in this business. I know, I'm sorry, I don't look it, but, but my very first job was in positioning, and it happened to be a positioning within, I suppose, a building, which is a very specialized one. But I went on and I have done some mapping abroad in Africa and the Middle East, and I don't know if anyone else in this room has experience of some of the very early satellite systems, Doppler systems. Just out of interest, has anyone used a Doppler receiver? Well, I have. I used it in Yemen. It took us 3 days to get a position, and it would take us those 3 days also to orientate ourselves using an azimuth. So things have moved on slightly since then. But jumping forward, I don't want to go through all my career because I will bore you, but jumping forward significantly to when I went to Ireland, we established the ETRS. I led the project that established the ETRS 89 network in Ireland, north and south. And that was in the early days. I think presenting to Herman Seeger, for example, was quite an intimidating experience, I have to say. So I've done, I've headed the Ordnance Survey in Northern Ireland. I've worked in all 3 Ordnance Surveys of UK and Ireland. So I have a little bit of experience in positioning, but I am at heart a land surveyor. This is my background. I studied geodesy at university, mathematics, physics, as well as surveying science. So I do have a little bit of knowledge, but I'm very rusty on the mathematics, so please don't test me. Anyway, enough about me. This is a positioning Ken introduction, and I thought I would start with a small video because we reviewed our strategy in EuroGeographics last year. And what I'm going to present very briefly is where positioning Ken sits within the EuroGeographics vision for its members. And I think that's helpful to put the context within which you are discussing today. So if the short video is really very much for the person who doesn't really know about what we do, if it works, hopefully, then we can hear it. We'll run this just for 3 minutes. And it doesn't work. So sound doesn't. No sound. Well, we won't worry about the video. No, don't worry, please. If it can get working at the end, we'll show it again. But it really doesn't matter. Shall I carry on while you try to do the technology?
What problems and wires?
Just really don't. I don't think it's. We seem to have some. Okay. It gives some sense of place. When we're looking for somewhere or somebody, it shows us this route to get there. When we're buying property, it enables the land to so what's ownership and searching has value and sense. When we need help, it enables the emergency services to get on quickly, saving precious time. The sound is not good enough. Okay. Let's not worry about that. If we get a chance, if we get a chance to show this later, we will. Maybe just pull the plug on it. What's quite interesting about that little exercise, just for the people on the webinar, there was no sound, but we discovered it wasn't plugged in. And that's always been the case in our business. Sometimes you just have to check the batteries and the cable first before you look at any of the complicated software. So EuroGeographics last year reviewed its strategy and developed a very simple statement of our vision of a society that's empowered by our members' authoritative geospatial services. And we aim to achieve work towards that vision, I should say, through three core ways. The first is supporting the public good by representing our members' interests. And that's what we call our representation role. And we do that both within Europe and internationally. In Europe, typically with the European Union, but not just the European Union. But in global context, we represent our members' organizations' interests at the United Nations. I just stress that that's different from member states of the United Nations or member states of the European Union, because we're an association of member organizations. The second key area is really where this meeting sits, and that is maintaining networks that help our members improve their capabilities and role. These are our knowledge exchange networks. I'll come back to that in a moment. And the third key area that we help our members is through facilitating access to the use of our members' geospatial services, their data, and their products, essentially. And again, that's something of interest, I think, within the context of this room. At the heart of what EuroGeographics does is delivering value to our members. We are a membership association. All of our members pay subscription to EuroGeographics, and in return we provide certain services, and we aim that those services actually are of value to our members. Indeed, we know they are of value to our members because we've asked them and they have told us that they are of value to the members. And what's quite important to us is that we sustain that value for our members. And we do that in those three ways I've outlined. Improving our members' capability and role is pretty important for us. Through our knowledge exchange, we run 2 major general assemblies each year. We develop our plans and our topics for knowledge exchange, and we are developing a capacity building activity, which will help those members who may not have the resources or the skills or the capability to actually exploit the internet or the connectivity that exists around the world. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon. I really apologize.
No, you're okay. Please come in. And the second way is this representation role. And we do that through a number of ways. That is, we track policy developments in Europe and internationally. We make presentations to regional groups and international groups, and we participate in those various groups that exist and develop memoranda of understanding. We do this to those key stakeholders I've outlined, United Nations, EU, and regional groups. And we build on the brand and reputation that EuroGeographics has as a representative organization of its members. And what we like to think of as an honest broker for our members' interests. The third key area that we are active in is facilitating access to our members' geospatial services. Currently, we have 4 products. We take members' data and we combine it with the help of BKG in Germany and IG in France. And they are Euro Boundary Map, Euro Global Map, Euro Regional Map, and the Euro DEM products. And we make those available, for example, commercially, but also to the Commission under a contract, which enables the Commission and all its institutions to use that data free of charge. We are also developing web-based services for the future. European Location Services is a major project that we have underway at the moment, where we will actually try to take Inspire-based data and make that available through a single point of contact. Got to remember that there are real customers at the end of that, and those customers have real demands. And so we're providing these data and services to those customers, and we are very much value the assistance of our members in ensuring both the data content and the way in which we make that data available. So the bit in the middle is really where I want to focus the context of this group, and that is about knowledge exchange and improving our members' capability role. So our knowledge exchange networks, or KENs as they're called, are there really to, as I say, to improve the capability of our members' role and ability. But there is a communication element there. It's about sharing best practice and sharing the experience that we all have, which can be very different, but shares a common technical element. We share that experience both internally within EuroGeographics and our members, but also externally with a number of organizations that have an interest in this activity. And today is very much an example of that, where we have a number of external organizations present because they have a real interest in the topic that we're discussing. And that's the case in a number of other of our knowledge exchange networks. In fact, we have 8 knowledge exchange networks. We have a business interoperability one that looks at the different business systems, cadastre and land registry. We have a Copernicus knowledge exchange network on which the European Environment Agency sits, for example. We have an Inspire knowledge exchange network. There's a policy knowledge exchange network. There's also one for quality, and that's quite an active one, in fact. And then we also have one that's just been re-established. It's the Boundaries Knowledge Exchange Network, which has a primary task at the moment to look at edge matching, as well as the collection and documentation of state boundaries. These are quite active groups. I mean, as you can see, the numbers, 350 participants in those knowledge exchange networks at the moment. But then we also have the general assemblies. These 2 general assemblies are for the director generals and the heads of our member organizations. The main one being the one in autumn. And this is where all the heads come together and we help them engage, network, and also exchange knowledge at a position which is very important, obviously, within the country, but also increasingly important in the pan-European context, where the heads can actually come together and discuss common problems, common issues, and common challenges in what is very much a peer-to-peer network. Our management board, and Hans-Jörg is vice president of the EuroGeographics management board, is very proactive in agreeing the work program and the activity of the knowledge exchange networks. And we share the results and outcomes with not just the management board, but also our members. At the extraordinary General Assembly we have in May, our knowledge exchange network chairs will actually engage with the members to tell them what work they've been doing, so outside of their field of speciality. And we're looking to develop our role to help others deliver and engage with our members. And that's also very much what this group is about. Engaging with others to actually explain the work that you do that's of relevance to our members, and our members being able then to explain to those external organizations the challenges that they face and the interests that they have. Those external partnerships are very important to us, and EuroSDR is a strategic partner. If you like, they are the research element of some of our member organizations. They partner with academic institutes that carry out research, and that's very important, of great importance to our members generally as well. But there are many others. ELRA, FIG, I won't list them all, but you can see those that are there. And we intend to actually underpin these external partnerships with more agreements where the interest of the external agency complements the interest of what we have. Not competes, but complements what we do, because we see the whole geospatial arena has very many common interests and challenges, and it's good to partner and collaborate to try to ensure we have a common position and a common understanding about those challenges. I've just mentioned those strategic partners. GEO is a good one. This is a group on Earth observations. We're an associate participant in the GEO group. because although Earth observation is not of interest to all our members, it's of increasing relevance in our domain as the satellite's resolution becomes higher and greater in terms of what we do. Looking at our members, and I apologize if there are some incorrect blank spots on this map, but basically the point is 51 out of our 63 members are active in geodetic surveying. And that's quite a significant number. So this is a topic that is of real relevance to all of our members. The map actually has been based on a survey we ran last year, and so some of the blanks are because people didn't answer rather than that they're not active in the field. I should qualify that. But it shows the level of interest in terms of the positioning KEN topic. And part of our analysis last year in the review identified the range of stakeholders active in this particular area. So UPOS, of course, CLGE, URF, UNGGIM, URSDR, FIG, and the GNSS agency. Positioning KEN stakeholders, those interested on, we can see this is a very crowded field. And that's not to make, I'm not saying that in any way critical. It's just that when EuroGeographics looks at this situation, we don't really need another group to start being active in this field. There's plenty doing that. And so what we've tried to do is try to discuss internally how best to position the positioning KEN in this landscape. So in that discussion, we looked at focusing on the field of GNSS positioning at the moment and providing a forum for facilitating cooperation between EuroGeographics and its members and all of these key players. And from our consultation with EuroGeographics and its members, they see that there's a very close demand and link to the work that they do, indeed in terms of the direction they take. And also very important that we don't try to duplicate the work that's already, the good work that is already happening out there and carried out by others. So we've come up with this phrase, a communication network node. So it's slightly different. We don't see necessarily a proactive development of projects and activities, but at the start of this review and this activity that we're discussing, it's important that we understand what is going on in this field. So we see our role for our members to help them understand what's happening in this field across Europe. So that future role has been set out very much in our proposals, and we're hoping that tomorrow at some point you get a chance to discuss what this role might be in practice. As I've said, it's about communications between the different groups, talking to our members about what they're doing. The way we could do that is actually repeat this on an annual basis, this type of session. And of course, we would be open to ideas as to whether it could be refined or improved. And we would always look to invite key stakeholders to such a communications network node, presenting their work and updating our members on what work they do, their achievements, and their plans for the future. And of course, provide our members an opportunity also to say to the stakeholders and in general the work that they are doing. The key point is our focus is on promoting communication between the various players. So our knowledge exchange networks sometimes have a management committee and a chair. We don't necessarily see the need for this at this point. We're open to ideas, but we don't necessarily see this to be too onerous a responsibility. But we would like to have some form of advisory group. So when we look at the plans for the year or the communications workshop that we have, we might well think about advice from you as to what it is you want to be saying to our members, or what as members you would like to hear from others. And of course, we're happy to evolve what this network should be in the future to meet the demands of our members. We'll always be open to listening to what you want and developing as the need emerges. The only constraint we have in EuroGeographics is our resources and our ability to actually service all of that work. It is constrained. Thank you very much for your time.
message is always keeping on.
Oh, I finished. It's okay. I'm more than happy to take any questions. I think tomorrow Saulius is going to show a couple of those slides again to help the discussion. But at this point, I'm more than happy to take any questions that you have. And I'm here, although I have to leave at 3 for another meeting, I will be back again tomorrow. So I'll be around.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay, yep.
You mentioned there is a working group with Copernicus emergency mapping. Is it focused only on the emergency mapping service, or is it broad for all the other services of Copernicus?
It's called a Copernicus Knowledge Exchange Network. So it does look at all of the services and all of the areas. The EEA's In Situ Data Coordinator is part of that group. One of its early jobs was to actually develop an agreement to supply emergency mapping data from our members to the emergency mapping service. So its initial focus was on that, but it covers everything.
A question? Maybe later. Okay,
Thank
you.
Thank you.
And we'll proceed to the next part of this afternoon session, a presentation from key player organizations. And I think this will be very interesting for all of us really to see the outside world where we are involved to some extent. So we'll start with an update from EuroGeographics. Eric.
First of all, welcome to our office. If we discuss about experience geodesy, I have a very good one, a very simple process. If you have a question concerning geodesy, GNSS positioning, I just transfer the question to Pierre, which works very well. So I'm here as president, current president for the next months of EuroSDR, and normally I have a few questions, but I think that the first one is the most important. Who knows EuroSDR here in the room? Okay, so, and I have three more questions, but we already answered to this question during the tour de table at the beginning of this meeting. So most of the members of the person present here are employed by a national mapping agency or research institute, and it's very important for us to know that. So EuroSDR is for European Spatial Data Research Network. So we have already in common the network with the EuroGeographics PosKEN. And the main goal of this association is to make the link between the NMCAs, the National Mapping and Cadastral Agencies, with the research world, of the academic world. So that's the two pillars, the two main pillars of the association, is to help research activity to be useful for the NMCA and to ask the NMCA to define a research plan for the research institutes. To be sure that we are working on applied research teams that are very useful for the two pillars. But at one of our last board of delegates, we also decide to extend the network to industry. We made just, for us it's evident that we could not go further with applied research without having some good representative of the industry in our network. That's why we opened the network to the industry. We have a first associated member, and the first one is ESRI. So it's for applied research in spatial data management and delivery. It's a non-profit organization for the old people active from 40 years in the spatial information and the geography. They know your OEEPE, it was a French, Organisation Européenne de la Recherche Expérimentale en Photogrammetry. It was still in French. 40 years ago with French. It's the European Organization for Experimental Photogrammetry Research. That's the foundation of EuroSDR, and we are a small organization qua geographical coverage. It's not like EuroGeographic. We have 19 country members. You have the list of the 19 country members, and you have to know that the main organization is to have from each country one member representative NMA, NMCA, and one member representative for the research world. We try to have interest in relevant topics around spatial information. There are a lot of them. AirPass, mobile laser scanning, GNSS, multi-scaling, cartography, linked data, time modeling, and so on. And we organize our activity through 6 commissions. We have like all the other association and executive team meeting. I'm the current president. It will change the next month. The next president will be from the Onderland Survey Northern Ireland. Fabio Remondino is our vice president in charge of all the research activities. And we have a secretary general, the well-known Joep Kromvoets, and an assistant secretary general, Tatiana. And we divide all the activities of EuroSDR in 6 commissions. You have the list of the commission. Commission 1 is for data acquisition. Commission 2 is for all the activity relating to modeling and processing of the spatial information. The third one is concerned about all the topics around updating and integration of spatial data. The fourth one is on information usage. The fifth one is on business model and operation. And I think for my part, the most important one, the sixth one, is the knowledge transfer. And we have also different intercommission working group and a special interest group about 3D. And you will see we try to cover all topics between the producer and the user. And we have a matrix organization of the 6 commission. It's not a hierarchical one, often a linear one. We try to organize, I will show you that in a few seconds, different activities, but they are mostly intercommission activities. I think for my part that there are 2 main commissions related to the PosKEN EuroGeographics network. The first one is data acquisition, because we have a lot of common overlapping activities. But I think also that the Commission thinks about knowledge transfer is also very important. So, which kind of activity do we have? We have delegate meetings 2 times a year, what we call our board of delegates. The next one is next month in Ljubljana. But we also organize, like here, small workshop, small very technical workshop. The attendees at the EuroSDR workshop are still around 30 to 40 people. So we doesn't try to organize big conferences or big workshop, but very focused workshop on a technical topic. We also try to help organization to develop research projects. We have a lot of publication, the blue books that you can now find easily on the EuroSDR website. And we have a lot of educational activity. We organize EduServe. EduServe is an educational program that's organized each year with 3 different modules, and it's open to mainly young people and young researchers. We also have a lot of partner organizations. The first one is, it's really the slide. The first one is EuroGeographic. We also co-organize workshops with ESPRS, OGC, Agile, and so on and so on. So this asked me to make a small update of our common activities, and I think that, like I said a few seconds, we have 2 very overlapping zones. it's the activity of the PosKEN and the activities of the Commission one of EuroSDR. The Commission one is for data acquisition. The current chairman is John Mills, and it's to explore, test, and validate platform, sensor, and algorithms to acquire geospatial data, with emphasis on accuracy, reliability, and standardization of data processing process. And you can see that in the keywords of the activities of this specific commission, we mentioned positioning. The last activity of this commission was to co-organize with ESPS and École Polytechnique of Lausanne the last EuroCo. That's the conference about calibration and orientation of sensors. You have a picture of Fabio of EuroSDR and many other organizations participating to this conference. But I think it's also important to transfer the knowledge of an LH network. And we also have a lot of activities in our knowledge transfer commission. The chairman is Marketa Petukova, and the main idea is to provide education services in order to support the transfer of knowledge from EuroSDR activities. And we have the EduServe program. It's a regular program organized each year. But the last course that we organized, it's a short course done in an Surveyor in Southampton, and it was about photogrammetry. And one of the modules of the course it's a 2 or 3 day course on photogrammetry, and one of the modules was on positioning, GNSS, and so on. So, what about the collaboration between EuroGeographics PosKEN, first one of EuroGeographic CANs, and EuroSDR? We have Mick and André Steilen, the former vice president in charge of research, had many meetings. So, yeah. And the vision is that EuroSDR should absolutely analyze and organize the overlapping and convergence zone between our two organizations and our activities, because we have nearly similar and complementary activities, and I fully agree with what Mick said a few minutes ago, that we don't have any resource to make it twice. So if someone organizes this type of meeting in EuroSDR, doesn't have to organize it. And it's very clear for the two organizations. I think that if we organize workshop on a specific topic in the name of EuroSDR, we invite the CAN of EuroGeographic to participate with us as this activity and the same in the other way. So the common decision is the first one, a very simple one, is to share our reference document, can I say. So we receive from EuroGeographic the work plans of the different CAN, and we send to EuroGeographics the research plan of EuroSDR. And it was done by André. André was invited to make some presentation at the 2 last extraordinary General Assembly in Leuven the last 2 years.
And you will come this year.
And Joop will come this year. Joop is he live there, so it's easy for you. And we also define the overlapping sphere of the activity between EuroSDR and EuroGeographic Exchange Lower. Is still ongoing, so we receive the plan of the two associations, and we are just looking how we can match the activities of the two organizations to co-organize some activities. We have to set up a collaboration plan. It will be the next step. It's not already done, I don't think so. It's ongoing.
It has to be written down.
Yeah, it's. And we also decided several internal action in EuroSDR during our two last board of delegates. The first one is to communicate at all the commission chairs and members the work plan of the different CAN, and to discuss the list of relevant cooperation topics that there are in these two documents. to review the work runs for each EuroGeographics CAN. We have asked for the next board of delegates at our commission chair to really deeply read the work plan of the CAN and to try to emphasize the possibility to collaborate in some activities and to give this information back to the EuroGeographics. That's the point of the situation. If you have any question, I live here. My office is at 47 meters in Lambert 2008.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
you're welcome.
Time and opportunity for questions. Are there any? Everything clear? Maybe we need some more information from other parties as well in order to discuss it. So, next speaker is Malboy.
Yes, thank you. Now about CLG, the Council of European Geodetic Surveyors. As you can see, the original abbreviation comes also from French version, Comité de Liaison de Géométrie Européenne. So I'm very, very bad in French language. Sorry for that. As I said, I come myself from Estonia, so I represent Estonia inside CLG, and I am vice president of CLG. Many greetings on behalf of CLG President Maurice Barbieri and all the export. We just had last weekend our General Assembly in Kosovo. Briefly about our association, we have now 39 members plus 2 observing members. As you can see on the map, we have Belarusia, which is not member now. We are working on Belarusia. It's not easy task, but we have a goal that we need to fulfill this gap almost in the middle of Europe. And we have also 2 observing members, Bosnia-Herzegovina and Montenegro. Ukraine is our last member, last full member, joined us last year. And we, all the 28 EU member states are our members. So it's so that the representations in our association comes through national associations. Many countries have one association only, like my country, Estonia, but many countries have much more associations. So they create some umbrella organizations to represent all the national different associations within CLG. And each country can have 2 delegates in CLG General Assembly. In these combinations, we represent more than 100,000 surveyors, because we have many big countries, not only from EU, but also Russia and Turkey, then have tens of thousands of surveyors that we represent. And we have close cooperation with many international organizations. FIG, I see that the cooperation with FIG has become much more stronger than it was maybe 5 years ago. Then also with FIG Young Surveyors Network and NSPs, which is the notaries organization, World Bank, EuroGeographics, of course, GSA is presented here, ULIS, which is now stopped his activities, but very recently. PCC, CEPLIS, EuroSDR, also here, IISC, and all the national associations. So These are our missions. I won't read it, all of those missions. If I try to tell it briefly, it's our mission is to serve our profession, to serve our member associations, to improve all the technical, scientific, educational, organizational know-how, all within European states that are our members. Now about last years, we have some projects fulfilled or ongoing. I didn't mention here the marine cadastre project, which is completed. At least the first stage, I think this project must go on because marine is very important. Then we have blueparking.eu, which is the system for parking spaces for people with disabilities. Then EuroReal, which is European real estate area label, which developed to IPMS, International Property Measurement Standard, and International Land Measurement Standard. These projects are ongoing. Then we have each year CLG student contest with awarding ceremonies at Intergeo, this year in Frankfurt. I will tell about it a little bit later. Then there was first Global Surveyors Day celebration. So we have. I bring to you the news that 21st of March was decided to celebrate as a Global Surveyors Day, and it will be stay for next years also. And it was celebrated together with World Bank in Washington this year, and CLG was also presented there. Then we pick up for each year Surveyor of the Year, which is some famous surveyor from the history. You can see some examples. This year we celebrated Karl Ritter von Keda, who is from mixed Albanian Austrian surveyor, and next year Laurent Ötvös from Hungary. So this is a picture from unveiling the Guillaume Henri Dufault last year in Lausanne, our General Assembly. And here is our very fresh picture from Kosovo, where we had our General Assembly. Then about role of CLG in PosKEN. We represent users of permanent GNSS networks for precise positioning, and we are surveyors. We are a large group of users of GNSS. Of course, positioning, it's not only GNSS, but it's one of the main types of positioning. For geodesy, surveying, mapping, all the works that we do, the quality of positioning is everything. Because without that, we cannot do our work. We will lose our trust, our clients, and quality of services. And so the positioning, for me, it's a top level task that we have fulfilled. Then, of course, more concrete events like here, to participate in a workshop and to work together, to exchange knowledge and so on. Maybe some projects together. Some examples about our workshops that we have made, which are connected with positioning. And I think the the highest number of such workshops have been made together with GSA, and I'm always very happy if GSA is attending our General Assemblies. And I'm happy, okay, last week you weren't here with us, but I'm very happy to see you here now instead of General Assembly. These are examples from last 1.5 years that we haven't met here in PosKEN. In April last year in Lausanne, we have a workshop about Galileo best practices. We had their thematic presentations from Sweden and Estonia, and there was a description about tests that they have performed with and without Galileo signals, and gained some increase of accuracy and reliability of the results, and especially in difficult areas. And we have this good results of these tests. Also a picture about workshop sharing. Then we had another workshop in the same General Assembly about the Surveyor of the Future, which was chaired by Laika. Of course, this is more focused on new technologies, mobile mapping, scan-to-beam, SLAM, and etc. So the idea of this workshop was that everything goes robotic, everything goes to the office, so less field work, more office, more remote sensing. Everything goes to simple and fast data capture. That there are the instruments that you push just a button and it makes everything for you. But then raised, of course, a question: what's the role of the surveyor in this development? Because to push the button, everyone can do. Is there a surveyor needed anymore? So, but again, everything must have good positioning. So again, the positioning is everything. If you think about these developments as well. Then we had another workshop chaired also by Leica, by Stephen Cairns, in Potsdam, September last year. This was some sort of continuing of this previous workshop. Is the surveyor data collector or data manager? Again, about BIM robots, remote operations of the construction. So the construction site is waiting for development for robots and self-excavating machines and so on. So from the one hand, technology is replacing the people. But on the other hand, technology can replace, how to say, not individual work. If surveyor's work is often too individual, that it cannot be replaced by robots, and we can have the dreams about the robot who is taking a boundary pillar and puts it in right place, but I'm not very sure about this. And again, don't forget about the positioning. It's all the things must be positioned in very high accuracies. Then we participated in first Galileo user assembly. I wasn't there myself, but my good colleagues from CLG, maybe others, but I know that Torben Juusager from Denmark and Hugo Toll from Estonia participated. And I followed already the presentations, which are in video. Then we have CLG student contest, and as I am the chair of this contest, I need to promote this thing. So this is if you have connected with universities or if you have students in geodesy, no? Sorry. No problem, no problem. So we have contest with 5 categories now. We have increased the number of categories. One is geodesy topography, which is supported by Leica, and GIS mapping supported by Esri, cadastre property surveying supported by IGPARS, which is the organizations inside CLG. And then Galileo, EGNOS, Copernicus, which is supported by GSA. I briefly heard from Michal that there are some changes and improvements, but because I heard it first time, we discuss it later, I suppose. And then we have the special category supported by CLG, which is youth engagement, where young surveyors can write some project and can maybe have some support for any kind of projects. So the winning prize for each category is €1,000 plus free entrance and travel to Intergeo. So because the awarding ceremony is in Intergeo and you should be there and present briefly your work. It's all the winners. And the regulations of this contest are available in CLG webpage. So if you have young students, young colleagues, until 10th of August is plenty of time to make a paper with 4,000 words. It's not very much. Yeah. And there is a picture from last year. Those 3, we had 3 categories last year instead of 5 now, and the winners were very lucky about this. So the lady from Denmark, from the Netherlands in the middle hand holding the paper, for example, because we gave the award in cash. She never held the €1,000 in cash. It was. She has shaken. I should go to the bank. It was very, very interesting. So much about CLG activities. Thank you so much. If you have any questions.
Thank you. Yeah. Questions are welcome.
I have just one. You mentioned that you have discussion about who is surveyor now, if data collector or
yes,
or
data manager. Yes.
So what's the answer of CLG for this?
I think if we are only data collectors, then we will slightly die. We should be a data managers. We should grow to data managers, develop ourselves. That's the only direction. Okay, we can be also data collectors, which is okay for us. But we should do more. Yeah. Yes, Alina, please.
I don't when will we get blue marking in all European countries?
Oh, it's a difficult question. I think you know the background maybe a little bit more than the others here. The project has been started already 4 or 5 years ago, and I must say that not all the countries that we have in CLG are having enthusiasm on this project. So we have very well coverage in Switzerland. This is the first. Then we have some coverage in Germany. Here, Belgium, the Netherlands, France is very few considering the size of France. Then Estonia and Croatia, and the other countries we still are missing. So that's the problem now, and I think the life cycle of this process has already been too long. we have to find some new way, new energy for this, and we are working on it. So, but I'm sorry, I cannot answer. Okay. So, thank you so much.
You.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll start with the next presentation on UPOS. Stanislav.
Okay, yeah. So, good afternoon, everybody. One more time. So, I am the Vice Chairman of UPOS, and I will present for you who don't know what is UPOS, so information about UPOS, about our status and activities and topics that was discussed in the last meetings. So we can also raise these topics or offer it for PosKEN as well. All sentence. So what is UPOS? We can say that we are a free association of European public institutions aiming at establishing of uniform DGNS-based infrastructure in Central and Eastern Europe. We wanted to be for or association for all European countries, but we started especially in eastern part, and so we are more or less from Central and Eastern Europe, and so we can say also that UPOS is a mosaic of national GNSS segments operating according to common standards. We are institution that provided in our country areas the service, DGN service. So we are providing in real time corrections for positioning for users, or DGNS corrections for VC users, or RINEXes for precise applications. UPOS was started in 2002. There was organized a big workshop with the name Multifunctional GNSS Reference Station System for Europe. It was organized by Gerd Rosenthal from Senate Department for Urban Development from Berlin. And this Gerd invited people, especially from Central and Eastern European part or countries, to see what kind of positioning is used especially in Germany in SAPOS. And so the delegates from these countries presented their status of how they use GNSS experiment station in their countries, and I can say they were shocked how it is in the West. So they decided to found that kind of initiative or organization, and this is the start point of UPOS. So we wanted to establish in our Central and Eastern European countries the networks of permanent stations, and in 2003 we wanted to use the European funds for supporting this project, and anticipated number of permanent stations was more than 870, and the anticipated cost was around 86 million. But later this idea wasn't a success. So in that time we can say we were the project, but this was changed. So for establishing this project or initiative, the UPOS was started. The main body was International UPOS Steering Committee. We had stone office in Berlin, and the Gerd Rosenthal was the head of this International UPOS Steering Committee. And each country or institution have a delegate, one delegate, so one vote in this steering committee, and we started to work to create the common guidelines for creation. So each country wanted to set this permanent station and this service in their country and on the same basics. So we decided to create the guidelines, how to set stations, how to run the service. And so due to this, we used to have or still have a lot of UPOS meetings. And beside this, Gert's idea was to also share this information not only to UPOS members but to other partners. And he, in the name of UPOS, we organized also a big GNSS symposia. It was more times in Berlin or also here. One was here in Brussels. And so this was the activity between 2002 and 2014. How was it, the status in 2014 of the members, UPOS members was so not only Central and Eastern European part, but also countries from Asia, for example, Kazakhstan and Georgia and Azerbaijan. Then more countries were not active or members, so we decided to do a big reorganization. In UPOS steering committee meeting in October 2014, there was a revision of the organization structure, and also there was a revision of the membership. So we changed from the International Steering Committee to, so the main body is UPOS Council from that time. And this UPOS Council, so each member institution have one delegate in council, and these delegates are voting for chairman and for executive board members, and from executive board members there is voting for vice chairman. The council, we have 4 categories of members. It's not clear, but associated member, honorary member, and or observer. And we also within a council, or we have some working groups. This is the revision of the membership. So we decided that each also former UPOS member have to ask one more time to become the member of the new organization. So it's changed, and also it was not from that moment the project, but our goals after the reorganization we can split into 3 parts. So this is in more detail on next slide. So we decided to act as a European-wide DGNS service providers branch organization to protect the common interests of DGNS service providers on the GNSS market, to further influence of the GNSS manufacturers with development requests for a significant customer group. And you can read that all of what is behind this goal, and this is what we are solving usually in our technical parts of our meetings. I will show you next slides some later what especially we work on this goal. Then also we like other organizations mentioned here, we also collaborate with international organizations and bodies to present European DGNS service providers. I can say we used to be a member of RTCM, because later we decided, due to high fee and a lack of interested person, we stopped our membership there. But we were quite active. We 2 people from UPOS are also who were leading the RTCM subcommittee or few groups. But later on we decided to stop this activity. We are also the EUPOS is member of ICG. It is the United Nations organization focusing on GNSS systems. Then we are also one of the 4 organizations that founded the PosKEN, EuroGeographics PosKEN. Then we have quite good cooperation with EUREF. So we have signed a memorandum of understanding with EUREF in June 2014. Also with EUMETNet, they are responsible for GNSS meteorology, as you know, and we also cooperate with GSA and representatives, and we are regularly they are invited to our EUPOS technical meeting to present the news about the Galileo and EGNOS. And also we used to have the special working group, EUPOS working group, technical cooperation with industry, where we used to invite people from the leading manufacturers, Trimble, Leica, Septentrion, Topcon, and etc. But we changed these, and now we invited them from time to time to our technical meeting. So it is not special working group for this cooperation, but it's now part of technical meeting. And the third goal is collaborate with scientific institutions and promote scientific use of EUPOS data, because we know that the EUPOS members' institution data have big potential, and so we are trying to offer this data to the science-oriented user groups. This is why we signed, for example, the memorandum with EUMETNet. And this is behind this goal. So what is the status in this month or this April? So our temporary chairman is Jaroslav Šimek from Czech Republic. He's I think now connected by webinar. Why temporary? Official chairman was Artur Oribal, but he stepped back. So until next election, we choose as temporary chairman Mr. Šimek. Now I'm the vice chairman of the organization and also responsible for this PosKEN activities within EUPOS. And the executive board members is Ambruš Kenieres, is also well known from EUREF, Janis Cvirks from Latvia, and Šimon Vajda is presented here. What is the status of membership? We don't have a country's membership, but institutions. So we have together 15 members, 1 observer and 2 associated members, mostly from Central and Eastern Europe. But we have 1 associate member from Uzbekistan, from Asia. So this is 14 countries and 18 institutions. This is just a graph. We used to have 2 meetings per year, but from 2014 we switched it to just 1 annual meeting. It is EUPOS Council meeting plus EUPOS technical meeting. Average number of there is around 19 participants from 11 countries. Our official webpage is eupos.org. The administrator is Šimon Vajda from Poland. Now we don't have the stone address, so we are communicated via the contact, so via mail, and the people responsible for tasks is chairman, vice chairman, and executive board members. Now we also have 3 working groups that is active within EUPOS. The name of one is the System Quality, Integrity and Interference Monitoring. It's SQI, short abbreviation. The head is Janis Tvirks. This is from the beginning, and the main task is this group is solving the, let's say, UPOS certification for each service and network. So we would like to have that we have some guidelines, like I see you later, that which country or the institution who are running the service and permanent network fulfilling all these technical standards can be awarded by UPOS mark, and we want it to be that it will be the mark that fulfill everything, and it's later I will explain what is in technical standards more data. Then we have a UPOS Coordination Center Working Group, ECC. It started still led by Ambush Kenyeres. It is nothing more that we have a combination of Synex solutions from UPOS member countries, and it is for computation and monitoring of coordinates, estimation of velocity fields. But this activity was presented in EUREF and was transformed later now to EUREF densification project. So maybe more people know it now as a EUREF densification project. And we also have this working group on service quality monitoring. It is led by me and my colleague Karol Smolik, and we are providing the common monitoring tool to checking the quality of RTK network solution. There is a link where you can read and check how it works more in detail. Our official guidelines and standards are, of course, the terms of reference, the technical standards. We also have guidelines for single site design, so and guideline for cross-border data exchange. And each member are using these, and so we are working on similar, not only similar, but on common standards. In the UPOS technical standards, you can say it's something like our Bible. So there is written quite to detail a lot of information about the structure, recommended structure of the network, equipment and settings, quality measures, user interface, and about UPOS services. UPOS services, it means that it is the services provided by UPOS members in their territories, in their countries. So we are serving or providing DGNS correction for real time for positioning and navigation with accuracy for less than 2 meters from half a meter to 2 meters for moving object, and 0.2 meters for static. Then the main goal, what we are serving for users, surveyors, or not only surveyors, is network RTK corrections for precise real-time positioning with the accuracy 2 centimeters, and for geodetic or geodetists, when you use post-processing mode, you can reach 1 centimeter or a few millimeters quality. Data streams are transmitted via internet. We recommend to use encrypt technology and RTCM Spatial Cognitive 104 format. As alternative, you can use not only internet but radio or TV broadcasting. And in our technical standard is that our system availability is minimally on the level of 99%, and in reality it is much more better. We can say that we are Galileo positive, and it is also written in our technical standards. It means that our primary recommended GNSS constellation or system is European system Galileo. What are our achievements and challenges? For each country, it was incentive to build up the course network in our member countries. From the beginning, it was the main aim. Then system of standards and guidelines. So this was fulfilled and done. Now we are just from time to time updating these standards and guidelines. We collaborate with international organizations and bodies. We organized UPOS symposia, which we can say had impact on professionals from different fields of activities. The last was in 2011 in Berlin, and we also cooperate in international programs and projects. Our challenges is that now the services, a lot of maybe more than 10 years are working, and we are improving the quality of our services and permanent networks. And now we know that we dispose with large observations data and product volume, which represents a potential that can benefit a number of activities, among others in science. So this is why we also provide the data for reference frames, estimation or computation, velocity computation, ground-based meteorology, geodynamics, neotectonics, space weather, upper atmosphere studies. So we know that it's a big potential, and we are we'd like to share them more and more. This is the slide what is recently most discussed within UPOS. So it is not, for example, one topic is not meteorology, but the GNSS meteorology, especially for user rovers or user size. That we know that it is the rovers are typical Surveyor's instrument, and they, according to meteorology rules, they need to be checked if they work correctly. And so we always raise this question how it is solved in different countries, because there is no common rule how to check it, and I will present some answers what we received from the last time. So it's very important for us. Then legislative on permanent station protection, because I think we will see from different country national report that each provider or service manager have a problem that they set some permanent station, but for example, a few years later, there is a new building close to this permanent station, and we are forced to move our permanent station to different place because there is not good visibility of satellites, and this is problems of a lot of providers and their permanent stations, and so we are thinking how to protect this by legislative. So in past, for example, in our country, that there was some zone where cannot be build up some new object that can affect, for example, the measurement of the instrument. So, but now it is not solved, because in past it was mean that some diameter from in 2D dimension, but now we are thinking about the horizon, so in 3D dimension, and sometimes the legislative is not thinking on this. So we are also discussing this. Also, some common standards or guidelines for RTK network, RTK surveying. Each country have their own guideline or don't have any guideline, and we are thinking about to create one, and each country just translate it or a little bit modify it and use it. And some cooperation with private permanent networks. This is the very tough question, because in each country, European country is different. for example, in some Western countries, it's typical there is just one permanent network in per one country, and then each service managers use this data and provide for the users the service. But for example, in Eastern countries, in Central and Eastern European countries, there is more. There is, for example, one state or public network and many private, and the legislative is don't know how to if they can accept also results from the private, which is not governed by or managed by some country managers or some official institutions, but just private providers. But the results are taken into cadastre, and they need to prove the quality and set up. So this cooperation with private networks is different, and we are also discussing that we can say that kind of questions or problems. The last EUPOS meeting was held in Bratislava. It was organized by my institute. There were 32 participants from 18 countries. It was two parts. So the EUPOS Council, it was only for EUPOS members, where we usually solved the questions about the terms of reference, some changes, but the very I think useful and important part is technical meeting, where we invited, for example, a lot of different people from different fields or from manufacturers, and we usually raise some topics what we are talking about. On this Bratislava meeting, for example, we also had country reports, and they were focused on this GNSS network infrastructure. It's a common topic. Then GNSS metrology, so how it is solved in each country. Existence of guidelines for users for RTK network surveying. Then GNSS permanent station protection and fulfillment of EUPOS technology standard. Then we also invited representatives from Trimble, Leica, and Geo++, the three main network GNSS infrastructure software, and we asked them to present the current status and news and preparation for Galileo, and if there is any restrictions, and acceptance of third-party research by their softwares. So they both or all three representatives came and presented, and then also we had the information about status of our working groups. Galileo status was presented by GSA. We also had a presentation about the antenna calibration robot that used for especially permanent station calibration of antennas calibration, and how they is ready for Galileo. About status of UREF, and also information from RTCM by Gerhard Bena. Just few remarks so about how it is in metrology. What we from our members received that there are only in 2 countries. It's somehow solved. It is for example in Czech Republic. They have the metrology for robots. They used some calibration baseline, which are used not only for calibration of total stations or distance meters, but also for GNSS, and they have some procedure how they calibrate it, not calibrate, how they check it or test it. And prove with some certification. And there is another version in Hungarian Research Institute, and they are using a static measurement on the observatory of bands, and there is splitting into the static measurement is splitting into half an hour parts, and they are completely separate and compared, and then they know the precise position and checking and comparing and validate it if it can be used and provide some certification. About the guidelines, we received that only in Slovakia is a special guideline for users for RTK, but in other countries, EUPOS members or invited person or members, there are different type of instructions, so it is not a special guideline, but somehow kind of instruction or information instead of solo guideline, but there are everywhere some kind of paper for users. And about GNSS experiment station protection, physically it is ensured, so usually the experiment stations are on places, buildings, or there is some fence around, some pillars, so physically they are protected, but by legislative now there. From the okay, sorry, just 2 slides. GNSS RTK network infrastructure software status. So all companies, all three mentioned companies, are prepared for Galileo and for the other GNSS systems and their frequencies. And each company presented their own solution how to handle this increasing number of satellite frequencies to reduce the processing times, which is very important for future. And also the antenna calibration are ready or will be ready this year for Galileo. So more about these activities you can see in presentation from this EuPOS event on that link. And the last slide is about this year EuPOS meeting will be in autumn in Tallinn, in Estonia, hosted by Estonian Land Board, and we are thinking about these topics. It is experience with bad antenna receiver, some jamming interference, or network RTK measurement with Galileo. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I propose to proceed with the next presentation because we are 10 minutes after.
Okay, sorry.
So these are
Thank you. So when I was preparing this presentation, I had a bunch of slides with background about Europe. And then I followed up with a status report about what was happening in DPN, our GNSS network. And then my presentation was much too long. So I skipped all the background slides, which was the bad choice, because now I have all the update slides. So before going into this presentation, and I will skip a couple of probably 2 technical slides, I probably have to give some background about what is EUREF. So EUREF is a sub-commission of the IAG, but the IAG is a commission of the IUGG. So I will start with the IUGG, which is the International Union of Geodesy and Geophysics. And this union has several associations, and one of these associations is the International Association of Geodesy. And the International Association of Geodesy has several commissions, and one of these commissions is a commission on reference frames. And this commission has several sub-commissions. And you have a sub-commission on global frames, and you have one of the sub-commissions which is on regional reference frames. I'm chairing that one. And this sub-commission has, again, several sub-commissions. And one of these sub-commissions is the sub-commission on the European reference frame, and that is EUREF. So, sorry. EUREF is involved in a lot of issues, but we are mainly focusing on our EUREF permanent GNSS network. So I'm going to give you an update about that, but before that, just for your information, we updated our terms of reference last year. So our steering committee, which was called before the EuroF Technical Working Group, decided to be a little bit more serious, and we decided to call ourselves the Governing Board. And then in addition to that, we also introduced a new concept, is that we allow our member countries, which are in fact IUGG member countries, to nominate 2 official representatives to Europe. And ideally, these representatives should represent the mix that we have in Europe between science and mapping agencies. So the countries will be invited to appoint a representative from a mapping agency and one from a scientific community. So the goal of these representatives will be to contribute to the redaction of the annual reports that we present each year at the annual Europe Symposia, and in some exceptional cases they will be invited to vote. So what is the goal of EuroF? Now we have longer text in our terms of reference, but I try to be concise here. So our goal is to define, realize, maintain, provide access, and promote the European Terrestrial Reference System that we call ETRS 89 and the European Vertical Reference System. I'll focus here on the ETRS 89, and for those who are not familiar with it, I don't know if there is anyone, but in any case, so the ETRS 89 was created in 1989, yes, by Europe, and it was created to respond to the fact that, of course, we started with satellite positioning at that time, and when you determine positions using, for example, GPS, these positions are referring to a global frame. And if you have positions referring to a global frame, then when you determine the position of the same point in Europe 1 year after the other, you will have 2.5 centimeters of change because of the movement of the European continental plate. So the ETRS 89 was conceived in such a way that it was fixed to the stable plate of Europe. And in this way, when someone wants to determine a position in Europe, which is as stable as possible, then they use the ETRS 89. So we maintain the ETRS 89 in Europe using the Europe Permanent Network. I hope it is a little bit visible. So the red dots are the places where we have stations. And so in order to provide access to the ETRS 89, we need, of course, that these stations make available their data. These are GNSS stations, also their metadata, and that we have well-known ETRS 89 coordinates for the stations. And then in such way, a user can do GNSS relative positioning with respect to the stations to determine ETRS 89 coordinates. So as I told you, I have been focusing on what was new. So this is just a list of a map of the new 27 new stations that we have introduced in the EPN since January last year. I don't know if it's a little bit visible, but in fact the new stations are the green asterisks, and in case you cannot see where they are, this is the table. And so no need to look at all the details. What you can see is that all stations, of course, track at least GPS and GLONASS, but a lot of them track Galileo, Beidou, and so on. Most of this, yeah. So you can see here that almost all stations also provide, in addition to daily WineX files, they provide real-time data, and a lot of them also provide individual antenna calibrations for the antenna that is installed in the station. For the persons who are familiar with this, you can see that we are using the 9-character identification for the station ID, which are according to the new WineX 3 conventions. So what is the evolution about concerning multi-GNSS tracking in the network? And I just propose that we look at the Galileo line. So we have 27% in April 2016, which is 2 years ago. And now we have 56% of our network that is already tracking Galileo, which is, personally, I think it's impressive that almost more than half of the stations are all tracking Galileo today. This is the network of the stations that track Galileo, and a couple of the ones in red are the Galileo stations, and the other ones in gray well, I know of a lot of them who are already preparing today to switch to Galileo, so we will see this map fill up very quickly. So because of this switch to multi-GNS tracking in the last years in EPN, this has required a lot of changes in our infrastructure, in our data flow, because there is a new format associated with it. So it was a lot of work for the data centers. There is additional work for the analysis centers. There is also additional work for the Central Bureau that I am taking care of. And again, without going too much in technical details, we were of course necessary to switch from a monitoring of the data GPS plus GLONASS to a multi-GNSS monitoring. And I'm just showing one slide here, which is a little bit more detailed. That is, if you are able to do a multi-GNSS monitoring, and you look at here the graph, which is showing you in green the percentage of observed versus expected observations in a station. So expected means, well, if you have a free horizon and everything is working fine, then these are the observations you expect. And observed is what you see in reality. So if everything is perfect world, then you have 100% there. So you see the green line, this is just one station, and the plot is starting in 1st of January. So the green line shows you that you have for Galileo, double frequency, about 90% all the time. And then you see a sudden drop down, because this drop is correlated, in fact, with the activation of Beidou tracking. And when the receiver is replaced, then again, the Galileo tracking is going back to normal. So this is the kind of things that we do in UF for all the stations we maintain. So we have some standardized quality checks on all the stations and try to inform station managers as much as possible about the problems. We are distributing the data, so we need to make sure that we are distributing high quality data. In addition to providing just daily data, we are also making available in UF real-time data streams. And about half of the UF network is providing data in real time. We are doing this using the famous BKG M-Trip clients and broadcaster. And when you look at the content of these real-time streams, then you see that we have today 29% of the streams who are already including Galileo. However, if you look at the receiver behind these streams, then in fact 69% is a Galileo-capable receiver who is already providing WANX3 data using Galileo. So there is a big potential to have more real-time Galileo streams. Now, concerning Galileo, I only talk now about the observations, and a couple of the analysis centers in UF who are providing you the ETRS 89 coordinates are already processing Galileo. But Galileo is not used today by all the UF analysis centers. So one Swiss Topo, who will maybe be here, Elmar will maybe be here tomorrow, or maybe today. He is the only analysis center who is providing today solutions with Galileo, but a couple of others are submitting test solutions only. So we are monitoring the daily data, but in addition, we're also monitoring the real-time data. So for the daily data, we monitor the metadata in the data. And so with metadata, I mean if the antenna type that is in the data is the correct antenna type, because if it is wrong, we apply incorrect calibration values, which influences our position. And the data quality, we monitor also for the daily data, but for the real-time data, we only focus on the monitoring of the metadata. And similar, we monitor the contents of the stream, if it is, if the antenna radome that is indicated in the stream is corresponding to what is there in reality in the station, is the antenna height correct, and so on. So you can read the red line, so it is clear that not all stations are okay today. And there is also only a monitoring, but I am not personally actively pursuing the stations to correct this. And then for these people who are thinking that they can just use these real-time streams for RTK positioning, they have to be careful, because the reference position in these real-time streams is not always given in the ETRS 89. And the reason why is because not only mapping agencies are operating these stations, we have scientific agencies, they don't care about this position in this stream. So in practice, we have 25% of our EPN streams that have a reference position in there, which is more than half a meter error. One of the important achievements of EUREF last year is the release of a new ETRS 89 realization. You all know the ETRF 2000, which was there since already a couple of years. Now we have ETRF 2014. The transformation formula between both frames are available from a technical note. And there was also an online transformation tool available. And the EPN stations, we are classifying them in Class A and Class B stations, and all this information is on the website of the Central Bureau, but the Class A stations are these stations that have to be used for ETRS 89 densifications. And since the fall of last year, we make their positions available in the two frames that EUREF is now using, ETRF 2000 and ETRF 2014. So this is just a map of Class A and Class B stations. So the green ones are the Class A stations. The Class B stations are mostly Class B because they are stations with a short observation time history, new in the network since a couple of months, or because they are extremely noisy. If you don't mind, I will skip these slides. In the EPN, we are using the IGS type mean calibrations for the antenna, but in addition, also individual antenna calibrations. And again, without going into the details, this map is showing you the distribution of the stations depending on the calibration file that is used. And so the black ones are the ones with individual antenna calibrations. So this is really already a significant number of the EPN, and if I could be able to read it, I think it is about 50%, because there is just something in front of it. We have been spending a lot of time in Europe in the management of the metadata of the stations, because it is not sufficient to check data quality. If the metadata is wrong, then you are still in trouble. So we have an online system for station managers to submit metadata, and we are now in the process of migrating everything to the new system. The advantage of the new system is that it is usable by several international networks. So if, for example, UPOS says, I don't want to maintain my site logs anymore, they are free to talk to us, and then we can set up a system where they can submit their site logs. They can get validated according to their rules and then get back to them. So this is the goal of the new system, and it will also be applied in a new project, which I will just shortly mention later on, which is the European Plate Observing System. So we have about 1,800 site logs available on one hand for EPN stations and on the other hand for the EPN densification stations. And so these will all be migrated to the new system. I shortly mentioned it already. So we have a new EUREF collaboration with the European Plate Observing System. EPOS is one of these big European research infrastructures, like CERN, for example, which are organized by the European Commission. And EPOS is expected to become operational from 2019, when it will become a European Research Infrastructure Consortium, and as a legal entity. And the countries will be members of EPOS and will pay an annual fee to become members. Today we are in an implementation phase. And the goal of EPOS, and it is linked to GNSS, and you will directly see why, is that even if it focuses on solid Earth science, meaning the study of the internal structure and dynamics of the Earth from inner core to surface, it is linked to GNSS because GNSS is one of the tools who is monitoring what is happening on the surface of the Earth. And so EPOS aims at making available all kinds of data and data products in open access from all the different techniques that are observing the Earth. And so we are speaking about seismology, about GNSS, about satellite data, all kinds of data. And so the idea is that you will have some nice map where you can select a zone, and then you get information of all these different observation techniques, in addition of correlation programs that run between the results of all the techniques. So it's rather sophisticated, but again, it is not completely ready yet. It will be next year. UF will provide data and products to EPOS. So the UF products, the site positions, the velocities, they will go to EPOS. Also the results of the EPN densification project, where we have almost 3,000 stations which are, where we know the positions and the velocities will go to EPOS. And EPOS would also like to make available through the EPOS portal the data from the EPN stations, but this cannot be done just as is, because EPOS is a little bit more formal than the EPN. In the EPN, you sign a commitment letter saying that you want to join the EPN. We check if you are replying to the guidelines, and then it's okay. EPOS not. In EPOS, you have to sign a more official data supplier letter in which you declare that you have full ownership rights on the data, or you have the rights to distribute the data to EPOS. And then you have to formally allow EPOS to distribute the data and to affix a license on it, a CC BY license, in case there is not yet a license on the data. So it's a little bit more formal than what we are used to in Europe, but there is a lot of advantage of working together with EPOS. Okay, so this is my last slide. I try to be quick because I guess you all want a coffee break. So this is some publicity for our Europe symposium in Amsterdam. So please come. It's a nice city. And I think you have time until May 4th to register. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. So, is there a question at the moment? Doesn't seem so. So thank you very much for the first afternoon session. We will now have a photo immediately, and afterwards we start again at 5 minutes after 35.
3:35.
3:35. 5 minutes after. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. Okay, so for the webinar users, we're going to the break for half an hour. 25 minutes.
Yeah. So actually, Karin already gave a very nice introduction to Europe, because in my presentation I will also talk a little bit about connections to Europe. But the main topic actually is this geodetic reference frame Europe. And I just give here a very short introduction what it is, and also that because we are now planning the future of this group, how we should be organized in the future. So this is the issue at the moment, and therefore I will just give some ideas what is going on. So as most of you know, that we had this very big event a few years ago, 2015, when the General Assembly of the United Nations gave this resolution on the global geodetic reference frame for sustainable development. And that was a very big event for geodetic community, because it was first time, I would say, that the geodetic networks on geodetic infrastructure was noticed on that high level. And it was then followed by the subgroup of geodesy, which was now last year UN GGIM meeting in New York, changed to the permanent subcommittee on geodesy, SCOG. And this geodesy subcommittee is now planning a draft at the moment, which will be presented this year, meeting in August in New York for the further process. So this was happening on the global level. And the subcommittee has the vision to provide an intergovernmental forum with the regional representation, and this regional representation is now the question that we have in Europe, we have in South America, we have Asia, Pacific, Middle East, and so on these regional subgroups. And the idea is that these regional subgroups will deal things which are specific for their areas, but also so that they know much better what is happening in that region. And it means that there are a lot of things which cannot be that way dealt with on the global level. And starting with this, it was last year in Mexico City, a General Assembly of this UNGGIM, and at that time it was also made the official representation of regions to this subcommittee. And in Europe, there are selected by the UNGGIM Europe 9 countries representing Europe, and this is now what we have at the moment, connection from European level to the global level. But we started this work actually already more than 2 years ago with creating a kind of ad hoc group, and we published a position paper or the white paper previous year, where we made the first guidelines what this European subgroup should have. It should support European countries to respond to the United Nations General Assembly resolution, whatever it comes, so it would support the European level that. Develop promotion and outreach programs to make geodetic reference frames more visible within European nations, support open data policy and foster usage of geodetic products, and also support and foster geodesy capacity building with improving and maintaining national geodetic infrastructures. So these are quite general ideas. And so within this expert group, which is within the UNGGIM Europe, it must have very close connections also to the all geodesy-related organizations in Europe. And now during these 2-3 years, the situation has changed quite a lot since when we started after that the UN General Assembly resolution, that now we have this permanent committee. We have also, starting within that, the roadmap and the detailed plan, what will be done. So it means that also maybe the tasks of this regional group have been changed. And this was the question what we were asking after the Mexico City meeting last autumn, that what will be the tasks and relations of this European group now and in the future. And especially because we know that EUREF has already existing geodetic infrastructure in Europe, maintaining the reference frame and so on. So how to utilize this already existing infrastructure? What are the connection of GRF to EUREF? And the original idea or the question is that what I see the situation is that on the top level we have the United Nations resolution, the member states, GGIM, GGIM Europe, which I say that these are on the how to say the policy making level, which have connections to nations. Then on the other hand, at the bottom of this slide, we have what I could call the expert level, as EuroGeographics as a good example of that, or other European georeferencing organizations. It means that we have the gap between the expert level and policy making level. And the tasks which we saw is suitable for this geodetic reference frame or subcommittee on geodesy is to be a kind of interface between the expert level and the policy making level. So this was the original idea. But now the question is that what are the tasks of this interface? So that we have, on the other hand, there are tasks which are taking care of the GGIM level. There are tasks which are taking care of the EuroGeographics level or other geodesy-related organizations level, so that we are not going to duplicate or repeat what is already done elsewhere, because we are quite small community, and therefore it would be very good to somehow organize these things properly, so that we are not doing things twice, because in more or less they will be same people who are doing that, or same organizations who are doing that in any case. Okay, I will skip these EuroGeographics slides because Karin already explained EuroGeographics, but the idea why I added this here is that now the question is that how much of these tasks actually we can think that will be done within EuroGeographics, or even so that can we think that this geodesy subgroup could be a kind of part of EuroGeographics, or somehow very close relations to EuroGeographics. And this is the question I have been asking now during this winter. I have been presenting this idea in the UNGGIM Europe Executive Committee meeting. Then I brought that also to the EuroGeographics Governing Board. I visited some weeks ago in Frankfurt, discussing with Hans-Jörg Kutterer about these ideas, and now also here I think this is a good forum for giving these ideas, that because there will be the challenging tasks of this subcommittee in developing the future work plan, and it seems that more or less many of these things are getting more and more a kind of technical in nature, which means that if the subcommission is already a part of this development, how to use this more effective in the future. Also reminding that Europe is that way in exceptional area, because we have very well organized this EuroGeographics at the moment. And if we are going to some other places, like a good example, like going to Africa or even Asia area, where we don't have that kind of well-organized system, and there is the much bigger need for the specific or special group. So this was my question when I was visiting and asking these things and discussing that how to do. So at the moment, we are now trying to get some kind of summary of these ideas and plans, and just asking that is it possible to define that EuroGeographics represent this UNGGIM regional reference frame entity in Europe? If yes, what will be the benefits, challenges, implications, or if not, how to avoid applications, who will do the job, if not same people, and so on. So this is, I think, a very important question, because this is how I see that we have very important issue on this. This is for the future of geodesy, for visibility of geodesy, and we need this. So therefore we must find the best possible solution also for Europe, that how to do it. and therefore I hope that we can get a good solution or proposal within a few weeks or a couple of months during the springtime or early summer to get this done and see what are the directions of the future in this geodetic reference frame in Europe. So this was in short the kind of status report what we have at the moment, and so I think the discussion through this internet connection is maybe not so easy, but I just ask that if you have any ideas, proposals or comments, just please contact me by email and we can discuss about these ideas and how you can see the future, because I would like to have this kind of open discussion on this very important topic. Okay, so this was in short my talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marco. We received your presentation, your information very well. Could be well understood. And I think this is also a very important topic for this group here to discuss. And again, as Mick Corey mentioned in the beginning, it's really not about duplication, but about communication to be informed about these different things and hopefully to find a way for good cooperation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions here in this community? Otherwise, we could talk about that tomorrow morning during the discussion time. Yeah, thank you, Marco. And
thank you.
We proceed to the next session on national presentations from NMCAs. You know the list of participants. Is Sébastien there from France?
Yeah, he will give a presentation by webinar. He is now active.
Okay, I just want to give you the information. Only 10 minutes, because we want to close this afternoon session in time. We will need some time to get to the hotel and then back to the location where we will meet tonight. If I think you should find this location on your own, but nevertheless you could ask a question about that afterwards. So, yeah, Sebastian.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so fine. So, good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry I cannot be in Brussels with you, but I hope I can give you a short overview of IGN activities in the field of geodesy and positioning. Can you see also the presentation?
We can.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So just three main directions, short focus on the French national infrastructure in geodesy, a point on research and development activities we have, and a last point on about contributions we have to international organizations. So we will have some links with the previous presentations. The first infrastructure I would like to talk about is a GNSS permanent network. This network was started in 2001, and it counts today almost 500 stations over the country, including the overseas territories. IGN owns only 25 stations by itself, but we act as a coordinator of many partners that own and operate GNSS stations. And this is very important for us to have this role of coordination and federation of different actors. These partners can be private network operators or scientific institutes or private companies or public bodies like local communities, for example. We distribute the data through our website, which receives about 3,000 visitors per month. And this website allows consultation or data download. We opened in 2016 an online GSS processing service with some success. And the main perspectives on that for that network is, of course, to keep developing the network at the same rate as the past years. We have between 25 and 30 new stations every year. And the main point for us is to develop the network in French Guiana, Martinique, and Guadeloupe with the help of our partners. And of course, we're also aiming at ensuring a good reliability and data quality. And in parallel, we also plan the publication of a PPP online service for the next years in complement with the GNSS, differential GNSS processing service. So here you have a map of the network. You can see that the three maps on the left are quite poor, only 2 stations for each territory. Sorry, and those are the territories we aim, we want to develop in the next year. So next point is about vertical references. We have 2 main projects in that field. The first one is called AirNet. This is maintenance of the national leveling network. It's a 12 years project that should be completed in 2019. The objective of this project is to improve the up-to-dateness of the published coordinates and also their relative accuracy. But it is also to provide data for the improvement of geoid knowledge. And we have a second project called NIREF, which consists in long leveling paths that are surveyed using the best techniques we have in terms of accuracy. And the extremities of the path you can see on the map are either tide gauges or foreign leveling networks. And this project takes a big part in the improvement of vertical reference systems, but also in the unification of European systems. In parallel to that, we also develop a gravimetric network. Last year, we measured 45 absolute gravimetric points, but also 132 relative gravimetric points. The points that are measured are points of the base geodetic network, and the gravimetric component is used for geological research, for example, but also for internal purposes, such as improvement of the altimetric conversion grid. In this year, we are planning to establish a new reference gravimetric network in Saint-Pierre-et-Miquelon. It's a small island next to Canada. And we also are doing some test campaigns in areas that present high gravity variability, such as Brittany. So a focus now on research and development activities. Those activities are led by either the LAREG research team, which is part of the research and development direction here in Nigeria, but also by the production service, SGM. The main topics concern Galileo. IGN has a big role in Galileo, as Galileo Combination Center, and we compute daily and weekly combination of solutions from analysis centers. We're also responsible for the Galileo terrestrial reference frame. We'll develop ultra-fast orbits for GPS and GLONASS constellations, and we also have a prototype for Galileo orbits. The objectives of this action is to remain independent for official organizations and data, but also to allow internal developments in the field of PPP, for example, but also aerial and terrestrial trajectory and ZTD processing. IGN developed a new geoid model, which is called REF17, by integration of the latest leveling and gravimetric data. The this new GL method is brand new, and the person in charge of this project told us a few weeks ago that the achieved accuracy is about 1.1 centimeter over more than 5,700 checkpoints, which is exactly the objective we had to achieve that accuracy. And this had been made possible by the development of new processing and dedicated interpolation software. And the last point I would like to focus on is the development of CSA version 5, which is a standalone, open source, multi-platform geodetic software, which can be used in the command line or with a graphical user interface. And it's fully configurable for taking any reference system or projection into account. And the main feature of that software is to allow also conversion of GIS and LiDAR files, not only point-to-point conversion. Finally, a short word about international contributions of IGN. IGN is deeply involved in several international organizations in geodesy. We are a data center and analysis center for the International GSS Service, IGS, and we realize the weekly combination of IGS reference frame. We are also in charge of the ITRF, International Geospatial Reference Frame. In parallel, I would like to say also that we develop and host the IGS website, and we organized the IGS workshop last year in Paris. The DORIS network is the achievement of a 30-year partnership between CNES and IGN. CNES is a French space agency. The 60 stations of DORIS network are distributed around the world, and most of them are co-located with other positioning techniques, such as GNSS, of course, solar or VLBI. IGN is in charge of the maintenance and the evolution of the network, and plays also the role of DORIS data center. We also have representation activities at IERS, for example. Another partnership between IGN and CNES is called REGINA. REGINA means GNSS Network for IGN and Navigation. It's also a partnership between the two institutes. The network consists of 36 multi-GNSS stations with real-time capabilities. And IGN's operational role is about maintenance of the infrastructure, and we also act as a mission center. We have research and development activities with the CNES using REGINA, connected to REGINA network, especially in the field of PPP or inter-system calibration. And finally, the last point I would like to address is the SONAR network. We contribute to the SONAR network, which is a network dedicated to sea level observation. The network is consisting of tide gauges collocated with GNSS stations. So the tide gauges provide relative sea level movement, and the GNSS and the combination of tide gauges and GNSS an absolute sea level position. In that field, IGN is a data center, and we are more specifically in charge of the GNSS part of the network, especially implementation stations, management, and measurement. So this was a very short and fast overview of IGN activities in the field of geodesy. If you have any questions, I would like to answer them. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for this presentation. There is one question over here.
How can I ask it such that...
Just try to speak up.
Can you hear me, Sebastian?
Yes.
Hello, Alina Gisku from GSA. Thank you for the presentation. Just two questions. Really, you have shown it on the graph about the constellations that you track in your network. There were 73 that also track Galileo. Is that correct?
Excuse me, I didn't catch your question.
How many stations have Galileo capabilities?
Excuse me, the sound is very poor.
Yeah, the question is,
For me.
how many stations have Galileo capabilities in your network?
I'm really sorry. What parts of the presentation is this about? Is this about the permanent network?
I think we can come just close.
Okay. It's about Galileo, right?
Yes. So you have shown that part of the total number of stations in IGN, there's a number of them that track Galileo. Yes, this one.
Yes.
There's 73 stations.
This one. 33, yes.
33.
33 stations have Galileo capabilities. It's more or less the same remark that Karin made about the EPM network. It's not the receiver capabilities that is at stake here. It's just the configuration of the receiver. So we have we could have much more stations receiving Galileo data.
And is the plan to do so?
But I just would like to say that as IGN acts just like a coordinator of the network, we don't have the power to say, our partners to say, now you track Galileo. So all IGN stations are tracking Galileo, but the stations that are owned by partners are configured by the partners. And
okay, thanks for that. I'll get to the real question, because the real question is...
We don't have time for a real question.
Okay, it will be very fast.
And then be very fast, yeah.
The question is about the stations that are placed in France seas territories, because I had a real-time look at the map and I could see that you have some stations that are Galileo enabled there. Did you notice any improved performance in case of solar storms? Do you have any data on that?
Data about improvement of performance of
corrections during solar storms, the provision of data that's sometimes fluctuating with in times.
I'm not able to answer. I cannot answer your question now. I have no information about that. I'm sorry. If you want, you can ask me the question by email, and I will like some specialist colleagues to get some answer.
Thank you very much. We'll proceed to the next presentation, and again, keep 10 minutes. Otherwise, we will not have time for questions.
Yeah, thank you, Sebastian. So now we have Pierre. Okay, Belgium.
So I should start with a correction on this title, because it's on the geodetic activities within IGN and NGI, because I won't report on the activities of the Royal Observatory. Although, of course, I will start mentioning them when I want to say something about the permanent GNSS networks in Belgium. So they run a network mainly for scientific purposes, but 4 of these stations are part of EBN, and of course Karine and her team are responsible for running the central bureau of EBN, as she reported about. On the other hand, there are 3 RTK networks existing since 2003, and they are all run by governmental agencies. And we have a sort of coordination our role is to coordinate this to produce the initial coordinates of the reference stations and to do monitoring as well. And by recomputing every week the solution and giving that on a dedicated website, the results of these recomputations. One of the main characteristics of these networks is that all data is for free, as well RTK data as RIMEX data, except for agricultural applications. On the other hand, some words about the, let's say, traditional classical geodetic networks. Here you can see that at the end of last century, we did for the last time a complete re-observation of the existing networks. Meanwhile, through GNSS monitoring, we saw that there were some movements in some areas. I hope you can see there are circles, but for instance, mainly at the extreme east of the country, there was a mining area, stopped doing these mining activities, and since then there is an uplift of that region, so we have had some levelings there. Also, some subsidence, mainly at the coast area and Antwerp port. And then, with all these results, we try to do a new adjustment to fit all this in the total of the network of leveling. And we saw there were some misfits. So last year we have done some efforts to get rid of that, and now we believe to have a new homogeneous leveling network, which will be validated very soon. Sorry, the colors disappear in this network. Anyway, the main thing is that the changes are rather small for about 78% of our markers. The regions that move the most are the eastern parts and the extreme western part. But it's mainly important for the local surveyors, of course. Coupled to the new heights, of course, there is a new quasi-geoid model for the GNSS users. This new model, which will replace the old one, which was released in 2003, will be based, or is based on new leveling points, new GNSS leveling points, new gravimetric data also. It has been computed by Technical University of Delft. We received it very recently. We haven't been able to test it yet, but we hope to get an accuracy of about 1 centimeter, which should be quite better than the old one, which had an accuracy of 2 centimeters. And it will be validated for the users starting from the 1st of August this year, together with the new leveling marker heights. Then, last slide, something about our aims in the future. Of course, we consider every permanent GNSS station as the backbone, and of course, EPN, first of all, is the backbone for our geodetic infrastructure in Belgium. We do not have intentions, because of budget cuts and less staff, etc., to maintain the classical networks. The points that are available, we have had a new update for height, so it should be valid for quite some time now. But on the other hand, we plan to start a limited with a limited number of points, a new network, which should be a sort of control network for 3D use, of course, mainly for GNSS users to be able to see if everything is going well with RTK, for instance. So I have listed some topics. It should be GNSS friendly, of course, these points, with a good accessibility. The monumentation is done by stainless steels in existing concrete surfaces. You have an example on the photo on the right, and we will be determining from now on these coordinates with static GNSS and spirit level. So that's it for Belgium.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also for keeping the time. Questions? Please.
The new GNSS-friendly network, what will be the interdistance between the points?
I think not by road, but Vogelvlucht. I don't know the name in English. So in a direct line, let's say about 10 kilometers. No, less than. Philip, can you add something about that? The distance between?
It will be about 5 kilometers.
5 kilometers. It's quite
very dense.
It's rather dense, but the networks as they exist nowadays are even much denser. So, of course, Belgium is small, so that's an advantage.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah. One small question. What's the cost of the service for agriculture? It is not free of charge.
Sorry, but I cannot say it because it's another regional government which is maintaining this. So I don't have
So
an
your
idea.
users have to. How do you know that they are from agriculture?
Because they get the corrections by radio,
Okay.
and the other corrections are sent by. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. One last question.
I'm aware that the Photogrammetry is already available in April.
Yep.
What source and you get sources?
Of course, I forgot to mention that for these RTK networks, the changes have been very few. But of course, there has been an update regularly of the hardware. So Flepos is doing this update now, and the Loon region will do it next year, and they will have, of course, Galileo capabilities.
Okay, thank you. We move on to Northern Ireland.
Good afternoon. The presentation from 2016 onwards, so this is a summary of the position in Northern Ireland at the start of 2016. The GNSS network consisting of 9 stations. As Northern Ireland's quite a small country, it's only about 80 miles wide, 120 kilometres wide, so the network we think is reasonably dense. We use like a Spider software, and for our internal purposes we also include data streams from stations in the Republic of Ireland and mainland Great Britain and Isle of Man, so to give us better control. At 2016 it was GPS and GLONASS observations only. We supplied the data streams from the stations to our commercial partners, so surveyors can then purchase corrections from them. We also supply them to OSTB and Ordnance Survey Ireland for use in their internal networks to the EPN. file data to the EPN, to Big F, Met Office, and also available for free download on the web. And we supply RT real-time corrections to our own staff and also to any user in any other Northern Ireland government department as part of NAMETS, the Northern Ireland Mapping Agreement, which is our funding model. It's effectively how we run. The coordinates in 2016 for the stations came from a campaign in 2002, which wasn't submitted to EUREF. So the actual official ETRS 89 coordinates in Northern Ireland at that time were still from the campaign Mick had mentioned earlier in 1995, which were ratified, I think it was in Turkey in 96. And our vertical datums are realized from GNSS observations and a geoid model from 2002. So since then, one of our EPN stations, Belfast, was destroyed, planned destruction by our own government. So our objections to the work they were doing weren't upheld and the station had to be destroyed. But given that it was the government that destroyed it, they said they would replace it for us. As you can see from that slide, it's still not replaced. We found a site, it's bedrock, rock anchored, with agreement with the site owners. We're ready to install the equipment, but the wheels of government to get this done is incredibly slow. We replaced the RTK function of the Belfast station with a station slightly to the northwest in Bangor. We've implemented updated the coords of our network to the EUREF ratified coordinates from 2009 campaign, which were submitted and ratified in 2010 in Sweden. We've a site to put another station in right in the centre of the country to densify and add redundancy. It's again ready to install the equipment. With two stations close together in the southwest of the country, and if we can get a lease on the compound that the EPN station's in, we can then relocate the other station to better fit the network. At the same time as we implemented the new coordinates for the network, we released a new height model, OSGM 15. So new satellite mission data, but also some new and reobserved ground data, which had went to make the original model. We've also agreed to replace the current height datum of mean sea level Belfast. And it's a long-term plan, but the future, we think, is an international global height datum, so based on a agreed value of the potential at the geoid. To help with that, we've agreed a project with Ordnance Survey Ireland to install an absolute gravity network in Ireland. That it's at the procurement stage at the minute. And also looking away from the future and back to the past, as we do sometimes, we have a project underway to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Ordnance Survey in Ireland and the observations for the principal triangulation network. So there's a joint project with Ordnance Survey in Dublin and the archaeological and heritage bodies, both north and south. to commemorate the anniversary. So future developments, I mentioned relocation of the station. We want to get Galileo capable equipment, and I think we've 6 observing Galileo at the minute, so we want to bring all the stations up to Galileo. We want to get better station velocities for all our stations. Effectively only have good velocities for the EPN stations. We want to complete the gravity project and move to a global height datum, and also to continue our historic preservation work. So that's all.
Thank you. Questions? Please.
Could I ask how the commemoration of the triangulation network will be realized? Will you rebuild the pyramids?
No, but I think part of it will be like a commemoration at or close to. So perhaps plaques at any of the original points which are still in existence. There's going to be some form of legislation, some form of protection for them as part of it. There's a professor at Queen's University who he produced a pamphlet on triangulation in India and Bengal. So I think we're going to produce something similar to that related to Ireland. And the other thing we thought, we'll see how well this works out. We'll take modern GNSS observations in a couple of points and see if we can compare accuracies in any way. I know there'd be a bit of a difficulty with transformations and ellipsoids, but we may do something like that.
Other questions? Thank you. And we proceed to the National Report of Slovakia.
Okay, I would like to present the new information regarding to GNSS from Slovakia. I start with my institute, Geodetic and Cartographic Institute of Slovakia, is divided into a few parts, few divisions. One of these is Division of Geodetic Controls. We provided services and products from 2 parts, active and passive part. Active part means Slovak Real-Time Positioning Service and Transformation Service, and passive part means geodetic network points like leveling network and others. We provide services and products especially for surveyors. Slovak Real-Time Positioning System is a multifunctional tool for precise object and phenomena positioning by GNSS. We start operating in 2006. Service enables user to work real-time or post-processing in mandatory geodetic reference system ETRS 89 and local Slovakian system SCTSK. We have 54 stations together. 34 of the stations are situated in Slovakia and 20 stations are situated in our foreign partners countries. All Slovakian stations use trimble receivers and antennas, and most of stations observe also Galileo and Beidou. Last year we established 2 new stabilization. It's a reinforced concrete pillar, and we moved 2 stations from roof of the building to this pillar. So we together have 14 stations which have monumentation suitable for geodynamic research. It's stabilized by deep drilled brace mark or a pillar stabilization. So there is results from geodynamics research. As you can see, Slovakia is on very stable area. All horizontal velocities are under 2 millimeters per year. Last time when we analyzed a time series of our permanent stations, we found abnormal behavior on 5 base stations. This behavior is a different time and is a different behavior, and we try to find where is the problem, if the problem is in receiver or antenna or monumentation. We made several tests and analyses. For example, in station Ganoce, we made a series of tests when we established a second antenna with one pillar. Or the next analysis was that we connect 2 receiver by splitter to 1 antenna. So when we compare the results like multipath coordinates and others, and the result was that the problem is in the antenna. We used 10 years old antennas, Trimble Zephyr Geodetic 2. It's interesting that all problematic antennas are from one series, and so we purchased a new antenna with individual robotic calibration. During this year, we changed the problematic antenna with this new one. Okay, SKPOS is operated and controlled by Trimble Pivot GNSS software. A few months ago, we upgrade the software to version 3.10.3, and the receivers are running on the latest firmwares. Few words about SKPOS web page. Web page uses a responsive design, so it is very good, accessible via mobile phone. SKPOS, this web page consists of full information about services, news, infrastructure, prices, and packages, and it's also available in English language. Last week we published new information about reference station. We published a list of this station with coordinates and antenna calibration for Ohio, so every user can download the calibration file. We provided 3 main services for DGPS, for network RTK services, and RINEX download service. We provide only network solution, network RTK in PRS concept, no single mount point, and most used service network RTK cost €50 per year. There are no changes for recent years. We have over 1,490 active users, and this number is still increasing. We have precise information about on which field the user uses service, because the user must fill this information in a registration form. We know that 75% of our users use service for surveying fields like cadastre, mapping, and GIS, and 25% use service for other fields, mostly for precise agriculture. So in 2017, we have more new SKPOS users were from non-geodetic field. So as I said at the start of my presentation, we provide service especially for surveyors, but now we have 25% of users which use service for other field. So in the future, we must react on this situation. A few words about SKPOS and Galileo. Most of station receivers and antennas are ready. We have 31 of 34 Slovakian stations is now observe Galileo and Beidou. Our RINEX from reference station now composed of all these signals, but only from reference station, no virtual reference stations. RTK services we provided only for GPS and GLONASS because we use Trimble VRS3 network generation, and we must bought a new one RTX module but we plan to do this in this year, and we will be able to provide a service for Galileo and Beidou, I think that this year. A few words about transformation service. Our transformation service performs and authors the transformation of point coordinates between geodetic reference systems. It is web application accessible via web browsers. Is available from 2013. A few slides from this application. The user first must select the input coordinate system. Last time we add the S42 systems, it's a local system. Transformation also support vertical reference transformation, and the user can use this application by entering the coordinates, or you can share your current position, or you can simply drag and drop and uploading a file in a various format like text file, S3 shape file, AutoCAD files. Last time we spent a lot of time with standardization all Slovakian local reference systems into EPSG datasets. The EPSG geodetic parameter dataset is a structured dataset of coordinate reference system and coordinate transformations. Our change request was accepted, and all Slovakian geodetic reference systems are standardized, dedicated that have EPSG codes from February this year. Last topic of my presentation is two slides from meteorology. Meteorology in SKPOS reference station level, we have 16 antennas with individual robotic calibration in GPS and GLONASS, and we have prepared 10 new antennas with also have individual robotic calibration, and aim for future is make calibration for every new antenna, also for Galileo, if it will be possible. GNSS metrology in GNSS user level. In Slovakia, we have only General Act of Metrology, no calibration order or other official particular legislative document for GNSS metrology. Therefore, we have no calibration baseline for GNSS rovers. So if the user need the calibration protocol, they must go to Czech Republic or Hungary, where GNSS calibration workplace is, or the dealers of main GNSS manufacturers provide a calibration certificate. Plans for next few years is establish GNSS baselines for GNSS rover and antenna calibration, and maybe purchasing of a robot for GNSS antenna calibration. Okay, thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Questions?
Just a short question. What does this picture come from if you don't have a line?
It's from,
I don't know.
From web, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
From Google.
Australia, maybe.
And the users that you mentioned for machine guidance, is it machine guidance for construction, or is it?
Yes, mostly for construction. Agriculture.
Okay, thank you. Next presentation is National Report of Finland.
Okay, thank you. As I already mentioned in the introduction, I come from the research background. I have been 15 years a researcher, and then our 100 researchers were merged into the National Land Survey. So we have already had our headaches and advantages there. So I have I notice now that I have skipped something from the national report that I should have mentioned. We are, first of all, the National Standards Laboratory of the Acceleration of Free Fall and length. So we have like a decade's experience on the metrology and uncertainty calculations, and we have done years with the GNSS. So we definitely could contribute there. And then, because we were merged into National Land Survey, they were requesting us to take a look, because in Finland a lot of cadastral work is done in the forest, and they are trying to use the network RTK, and it's not really properly working. So we took a look at there, and we did quite a lot of measurements in the forest, and we noticed that it's far more dependent on the receiver manufacturer, receiver firmware, receiver tracking loops, whatever, than really the constellation. You can have like a better GPS only than other version with the GPS GLONASS. We haven't tested with Galileo yet. We start this year and really hope to see the improvements. But just as a warning that it's not only the constellation, it's also what is happening in the receiver. Okay, I'll get into that. So this is a bit mix of the report and a little bit of the research details there as well. But the concept in Finland, we have two private companies using the business model. We have a TrimNet having a Trimble solution, and then we have a Hexagon SmartNet using the Leica solution. They're completely having a business model, having all the antennas on the rooftop, having the good enough antennas to be able to provide what they promise. What we are doing for them, we are providing them the official coordinates. We are monitoring their stations to be sure that the product what they are selling is referring to the national reference frame. We do it for free, because if you don't do it for free, they don't want to buy it from us, and then we have to solve the mess anyhow later on. So, but what we are doing, we are maintaining the preference frame of Finland. So we have 20 stations, 20 new stations, having all GNSS available there, and we try to get them all into the EPN. Now we have like a little bit more than 10. But at this time, we also started thinking with the National Land Survey that we are paying a lot of money for the private companies for the network RTK. And we need a more dense network in Finland in order to monitor all the internal movements there. And if we are thinking of going in the future, maybe even to the dynamic reference frame, having maybe in the future not the benchmarks, but only the coordinates for the corner points of the properties, we have to know what's going on there. So we decided we need more stations. When we have the stations, we as well can make our own network RTK service for our internal use. We have more than 400 guys doing the network RTK. So we have a project now that we have made a deal with agreements with Estonia, Sweden, and Norway. So we are exchanging the data on borders, and then we are building more stations in Finland as well. All are of the quality of the highest class reference stations. They are massed on a bedrock, so really made for monitoring the crustal movements as well. But we do this only for ourselves. We are not allowed to give it free of charge for everybody. But the last piece there is a declaration of spatial infrastructure in Finland. It's the document made by a lot of parties in Finland, ordered by the Parliament of Finland, and they are now processing it, and we don't know what comes out of that machine, but maybe in the next meetings I can tell that we provide it for free, or we are not allowed to provide anything for free, I don't know, but it's now in the Parliament's hands what's going to happen. But anyhow, we are also having a project to think about what's the new height system of Finland. We are thinking about also the geoid-based, GNSS-based height systems, and for that purpose we are also planning to precise level all these GNSS stations. So by 2022, when we should have 3 years of time series from all the new stations, we should have also the precise leveled height for the stations. So then we start playing the game with the geoid and the GNSS and whatever, more research-based. So at the moment we have 32 stations. We are using the GN Smart from G++, and we start testing in the 2 regions this summer. The northern region is actually the Snowbox Aurora. It's the test environment for autonomous cars in the Lapland. Above the polar circle, it's actually maintained by the Finnish Transport Agency, but we are providing the GNSS corrections there. And just a month ago, there's a car in the picture there. We have this Aurora part there, but the Norwegians joined the project. Now it's the project called Aurora Borealis. The Norwegians call themselves Borealis. So we are sharing also the GNSS data there. And we had a test with this our autonomous car there, drive from Finland to Norway and back. And we are now analyzing the data and see what's coming out of there. We have measured some almost 80 points on the first order leveling network just to support fitting the geoid into the national height system, so you can use like a GNSS together with this geoid model to get the official heights using GNSS. Markku talked about the UN resolution. It should be some like the Metsähovi here. We have renewed pretty much everything there. There's new GNSS, new superconducting gravimeter, and we are at the moment this year we have a new satellite laser ready, and next year we have the new VLBI ready. The factory test of the VLBI is already done, so it will be installed the hardware there in a couple of months. Then the EPOS was mentioned, and in Finland we have made a sort of an internal FinEPOS consortium with the universities and research institutes, basically to support the EPOS, so that we together provide the data for the EPOS. But also this FinEPOS is in the roadmap of the Academy of Finland, so that they are actually funding us, so that this is going to happen. Both just the work to get the data streams going, but also to buy some new hardware. And some projects, research projects more. It's about, this is a famous project. There is a lot of parties involved. There's a lot of activities there. What we are interested in is the precise navigation, 3D navigation. The key factor there is that traditionally you just have a latitude, longitude when you navigate, try to stay on track, but the aim is to have it 3D, so that only using like a GNSS, you know how much water is under the keel. So you can start planning the routes differently than nowadays. And we have had like 2 surveys. It's only not only the navigation, but we also had a gravimeters from Germany and this summer from Sweden on board, and research project, high accurate navigation on the sea. That's the basic idea. Here we used also stations, permanent GNSS stations from Sweden and Estonia in this project. And the last slide, we have done like I would say decades monitoring of the crustal deformation around the nuclear plant in Finland, where they are digging the holes to, how do you say it in English? They are dumping the nuclear waste 400 meters underground. So we are continuously monitoring what is happening around there when they are digging the tunnels there. And thank you. So, GNSS antenna in the Arctic might be a reason for sometimes for noisy data.
Okay, thank you very much. Other questions?
In Aurora, for the self-driving cars, what level of automation do other apps right now testing?
At this test, it was only the GNSS part, but that was tested. The car was autonomous. It was able to drive, I think, I don't know about the level where it is, but it was driving like a 50 kilometers per hour in a snowy road. Without
any driver?
Yes. Yeah. But when you cross the border to Norway, you have to start steering, because it's the legislations country by country if you are allowed. In Finland you are allowed to do it. So that's why this is a public road coming from Arctic Circle all the way up to the Norway, and you are allowed to test their autonomous cars.
So the driver was in, but not touching anything until he reached Norway.
Yeah, it's the car enables that. We didn't dare to do it because we rented it. So. But it's possible.
Okay. Yeah, the measurements you are doing for this, let's say, plant, or this safety for the, is you said you do it based on campaigns still, or
no. It's a permanent nowadays. We started in the 90s campaign based, but then now it's a permanent stations. Yeah. We also do precise levelings there repeatedly.
Thank you. We proceed to the presentation of Czech Republic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me to inform you about GNSS and geodetic activities of Czech Office for Surveying, Mapping and Cadastre, and its two institutions, Land Survey Office and Research Institute of Geodesy, Topography and Cartography. On this picture, you can see our flagship Czech network of permanent stations, CHEPOS. Probably the most significant change of last year is that we set up receiving of Galileo and Beidou signals on our stations, and in the beginning of 2018 we started provided this data to users. So far, not at all stations, only on 23 stations, because 5 CHEPOS stations are external stations which are operated by universities, army and research institutes, and these stations are either equipped with Galileo receivers, but we so far haven't set up receiving data from these stations. So our aim is to complete this process to the end of this year. Currently we have about 160 users, 25% of them from public sector. Except providing data, we perform our own monitorings, which are available on our websites to users, monitoring of operation, monitoring of accuracy, and our research institute performs monitoring of stability of permanent stations. Last year we performed also some geodetic measurements in the reference frame. The main aim of these measurements is to precise transformation parameters between European reference systems and our national reference systems. In case of position between ETRS 89 and between coordinate system of uniform trigonometric cadastral network. Concretely, we perform GNSS measurements to precise model of deformations of our national systems, and this model is created as a table of deformation, transformation table. The new realization of transformation table we published at the end of 2017. Against the previous one, it has smoother changes and is based on the more GNSS measurements on the bordering areas of the Czech Republic. We also perform GNSS and gravity measurements to precise current model of gravimetric quasi-geoid. And in case of leveling heights, we perform precise leveling to densify our realization of European vertical reference systems. This year we sent our leveling data, measured data, since the years from 2007 and 2016 to BKG Well Center. All transformation are available on our GeoPortal within the transformation service. This transformation service is free of charge. And this is our project which we started in 2017. It's project of popularization of historical trigonometric points. It means historic trigonometric pillars or measuring towers which was built mainly before Second World War. To these points we install information table for visitors, for tourists, and this table with QR code leads to our websites where users can find more information about the history of these points. Research activities of Research Institute of Geodesy, Topography and Cartography. Research Institute perform various scale of research activities in the field of GNSS, DORIS, gravity field modeling, software development, especially Karim mentioned software GNAT Anubis, which is used in the EPN as monitoring software, geodetic reference frame realization, and research in meteorology. Here you can see some significant international projects in which Research Institute participates, EGVAP, tropospheric modeling, European Plate Observing System, or EGNOS Service Performance Monitoring, Galileo Reference Center, and other projects. I already mentioned monitoring of GPS stations, CHEPOS. This service Research Institutes provides also for private GNSS network in our country because situation is Czech Republic is we are a small country, but we have 5 private GNSS network. So for all these network stations, Research Institute provides monitoring. Which station is monitored? This station can be used in our cadastre. This is principle of its monitoring. On this picture you can see some photos of equipment of Research Institute, include GNSS receivers, absolute and relative gravimeter, water vapor radiometer, and other sensors. Research Institute participates also on the international gravity works, absolute gravity measurements on the territory of Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary. Okay, that's all. This presentation I prepared with Jaroslav Šimek. Maybe he is still on webinar. So, Jaroslav, many greetings to Prague.
He's still.
Thank you very much. Also for really keeping the time. Questions?
I have one question. You mentioned that there are other 4 private network providers. So how we are positioned in the market? Do you have idea?
I think our position is not so bad because, as you've seen, we have 1,060 users, and I don't believe how it's possible, but we can live all stations, all networks of permanent stations, public and private.
Maybe only a little question. How can you check that the sites you said if they are not on the monitor and they cannot be used by the providers? How can you check it? Because you probably can't check it.
Yes, it's hard, but our geodesists, when they give their measurements to cadastre, they must fill protocol, and in this protocol they must describe which stations they use and if this station is monitored or no.
Okay, thank you. National Report of Germany.
Thank you. Also, I would like to give you some summary for the activity in Germany, the geodetic activity from Germany. At first, in Germany, the situation is a little bit different because we have to look at first for the responsibility for surveying in the Germany. We have in Germany 16 regional responsibilities because we have a strong federal system. That means the surveying is in the responsibility of the German states. There are 16. They have a different laws. They have different different agencies. So that also the surveying agencies belongs to the different ministries in the 16 countries, either to the Ministry of the Interior or to the Ministry of the Finances or Ministry for the Rural Areas or and Consumer Protection or Ministry for Infrastructure and Agriculture. So that if we try to do something together, that there has to be some collaboration, and all the countries and some federal members or offices, agencies are members of a working committee of the surveying authorities of the Länder of the Federal Republic of Germany, ADV, or in German ADV. And there are some, except for the states itself, there are some federal members. These are the Ministry of the Interior, which are represented by VKG, where I come from. And there are also two other ministries, the Ministry for Traffic and Digital Infrastructure, represented by other office, and Ministry for the Defense. That maybe because I'm from BKG, we should say something about the BKG. Since 2012, there is a law called EuroGeographics, where the BKG is explicitly mentioned, and also his responsibilities. And we, as I already mentioned, belong to we are under authority of the Ministry for the Interior, which is since 2018 renamed after our elections. So this is that you know about the structure, how it is working, but if all the states are coming together with the federal members, that we can put something together. And what is new is that 2016, since the 1st December of 2016, we introduced integrated geodetic spatial reference. What is interesting is that all components of the geodetic spatial reference, that means 3D position, height, and gravity, have been planned, measured, observed, and analyzed together in a common measurement epoch. Just the timetable, this was quite a huge project that you see. The first ID came in 2002. Start of the project 2005, because we are talking about the position. Here's the campaign for GNSS positioning in 2008. Then you have some procedure and analysis and adjustment. So that at 1st December 2016, we introduced this new system, or this new realization of the. So the integrated geodetic spatial reference 2016 include several components. This is the new official realization of the German height reference system, DHHN 2016. Then we have improved coordinates for the German reference network SAPOS. Then we have a new official quasi-geoid. Then we have a new official gravity reference frame, and as addition, there is some transformation module for the transformation of the height from the old system from 92 to the new one in 2016. At first, there is the German principal leveling network. The new one, you see the map with lines, some parameters which are interesting. Maybe the whole total length of the measurements, almost 30,000 kilometers. Number of leveling points, almost 60,000 points. Nodal points, 680, and so on and so far. The height difference, the former realization from 92 is plus minus 35 millimeters, except for mining areas. As addition, the transformation model from the old system to the new one with the transformation surface. This is just a small point. Then we have the positioning, the GNSS campaign from 2008. He had a 250 control station. These are the station that points data in ground. Then we have a 350 reference station. That means the GNSS station. And then we have an adjustment. Yeah, at first, in the first step, there was an adjustment without constraint and the transformation in the global system, IDRF 2005. Then the transformation, the no transformation, the Memo 8 in the European system. There were some differences in the realization to the old one, so that at the end there has been necessary some transformation, which were reduced just to 3 rotations, so that the differences in the position has been minimized. It was the position, but it's already past, I would say, because now we are already preparing the new campaign, which should take place in 2020, and we are now running and how to say, discussing with the individual German states how we would proceed there. The next point of this big campaign is the combined quasi-GeoID, which include also the data from GOCHE, used terrestrial data, improvement as has been some improvement of the software for the terrain corrections and geoid modeling. Yeah. This was just a big campaign. Now there is some block. I would say something about positioning in Germany in general. We have a position system in Germany that's called SAPOS, and it is running by the individual German states. It has approximately 270 or 275 stations. The committee I mentioned before had a central service, which is in Hanover, but every state is running his own position system. They provide various services in real time or in post-processing. Since 2010, there are some special emphasis on quality management, and 2018 they are working now on new guidelines on monitoring of the coordinates of the reference station network, so that are looking on the in post-processing in the analysis where are jumps, so that we have a nice corrections or nice how to say timelines. And 2019 there should be test campaign for combination of individual regional solution, like if you take the EPN network. There again, there's the map with the SAPO stations, so you have some so you can see how it is looking like. And then I have additional information, and this is the open data politics in relation to the positioning in Germany. Some German states offering now already positioning services for free. I marked them by red. This is Thuringia, North Rhine-Westphalia since April this year, and Berlin. And then we have some 2 additional states, which is Bavaria and Rhineland-Palatinate, and they offer the positioning service for free, but just for a farmer and agronomist. And I put additionally the resolution, the statement from the semi-annual conference of Ministry for Rural Areas from March. And this is the resolution. You see this is in German. for agri, for the resort for agrar and for minister, and it's called as smart farming. And from Bavaria, especially, I have some screenshot from the internet page where it's stated this is for free or just for farmers, and they have just paid 50 euros for 3 years. And I'm through.
Thank you very much. Questions?
I have a small question. Yeah, you mentioned about this impressive campaign in 2016 on the many aspects. So how the campaign was organized? Because as you said, each state runs own way. How the campaign was ruling?
It's difficult for me to say because you have seen the campaign started 2005. I'm now for 4 years at the BKG. I was not at the beginning, but I mention it here on this slide. You can see this also. You have 16 countries and the federal members. This is why I mentioned at the start, at the beginning, and we have this. And they are organized in the working committee. They are sitting. The center is sitting in Hanover. This is what I also said, and they are governing, and then they meet together and discuss it. This is not easy task.
So it's a huge coordination in a way. Yeah.
Yes.
It was done by ADB. So the center in Hanover is the office responsible for SAPOS. And ADB is chaired twice a year by a different federal state. And they organized it as a whole group. That went well. And BKG was also involved in 2 parts. In GNSS observation and analysis, and also gravity observation and analysis, height leveling calculation.
But for example, the measurement campaigns, this is organized that the states make their own measurements, but they have to find the common date so that everything is measured at one time point or close to one time point.
And the testing campaign that you plan in 2019, would it be done by states or central bodies?
This is actually the same like 2000 or similar to 2008, and this is why we are preparing it already now, because it is again a really huge task to organize it. But again, all the state will be participate. Everyone, also from the what they know from 2008, they will use the
experience.
They will use the experience so to continue in the next campaign. But it will take maybe 1 or 2 years until it is really prepared. Yes.
Okay. Final presentation.
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
See how many still able to.
Okay. My name is Peter Wiklund, so we'll present a little bit from what's happening in Sweden, and I will focus on mostly on GNSS and positioning parts. But the main focus at the Geodesy department is, of course, provision of national horizontal and vertical height system, implementation of the systems, transformations, provide the national geodetic infrastructure, of course, and work for an efficient use of GNSS in Sweden. That is one important part. Research, advice, support, and also best practice documents. I'm going to talk about SWEPOS mostly, and this is a national network of permanent reference stations. Investment covered by government funds and operation costs, including future upgrades and so is supposed to be covered by user fees. So that is the basic idea. You can see perhaps we can see how the stations are oriented. We have cooperation with Norway, Finland, Denmark to exchange data. And there are some different densifications of the network.
The purpose, connection to the national reference system. When you go out and connect to the service, you directly get the connection to the national reference system, Spheres 99 in Sweden. We provide data for scientific studies, crustal motion, for example. We have land uplift in Sweden that we monitor. Meteorology. We send data, for example, to the Swedish Meteorology Institute for weather analysis, for the possibility to analyze the water vapor content in the atmosphere. We send data to the international organizations, IGS, CPM, and today we have close to 400 stations. 41 of them are on bedrock, very stable mountings, and other stations are monitored by our Class A stations. We have a support organization with 24/7 service with support. You can dial into the support and get help if you're out in the field. We are available 6:30 in the morning until 8:30 in the evening. And then we have monitoring of the system the rest of the time. We have a number of partners. We have both SmartNet, Trimble, TopNet, and also CNH Industrial, which is a company that is turning towards agriculture. And we are providing data from our stations so that they can provide their own services in Sweden. So we find it interesting to cooperate with these companies so we can use one common geodetic infrastructure. And data exchange with the neighboring countries, of course. Our services, I think it is more or less the same that all of us have in different countries. Today, the network RTK service, we have, I think it is 3,700 subscribers and a little bit more than 4,000 users. And from February this year, we also have support for Galileo in our real-time service. So the users can connect and get corrections also for the Galileo satellites. Expectations from the users, or what we hear from the users, are always better height accuracy. They want improved availability in different difficult environments, and increased availability to the service. They don't like when we have planned services on the system and so on. So especially the farmers are very sensitive to that. So this is an example. You can imagine this guy has been out on the field, very open and good. You can have good visibility to all the satellites, and then he's moving into the forestry area and is looking up and thinking about where did the satellites go. So it is important with have good availability to satellites. Yeah, the same difficult environment. So one way of improving the accuracy and redundancy is that we have densified our network. In 2010, we had 70 kilometers between the stations, and then since 2011, we have densified the network to 35 kilometers in the green areas, and in some areas down even to 10 kilometers in the more urban areas surrounding some larger cities. As a combination to this issue with the good height measurements, it is of course very important to have a good geoid model also. And between 2010 and 13 and 2014 and 17, we have done a lot of gravity measurements in Sweden in areas where we haven't had that much gravity measurements before. this was actually out on a lake that froze, our largest lake in Sweden. We were able to do gravity measurements also. But that has made it possible to calculate a new geoid model. So we have implemented the new SVEN 17 RH2000, and over the land it has approximately 8 to 10 millimeters standard error. So this is an important part for GNSS measurements, height measurements. Hannu mentioned this also, the FAMOS project, and I think it was 2016 or 17 that we purchased this marine gravimeter to be able to do gravimetric measurements at sea. So it's a project to do the gravimetry measurements in the Baltic Sea, and to improve the geoid model also over the Baltic area, Baltic Sea. So we have installed that instrument now on a survey vessel called Jakob Hegg. And Hannu showed this picture also why we are doing this, so I don't have to explain this. More satellites is important, and here we can see a plot on, we have the GPS satellites in green and the GLONASS in red, and you can see the additional Galileo satellites on top. And this makes a difference when we are out in the field, especially when we come into more difficult areas. So we have been working a lot with the Galileo implementation process. We started in 2016 with single station RTK measurements with Galileo. And then in the middle of 2016 we put up a network RTK, small network for running network RTK with Galileo corrections. And then we have made some upgrades, release from the software. We're running Trimble TPP software. We made the upgrade in the end of 2016. We continued with the test measurements 2017 and made some upgrades at some stations in October, and then we could make a release of the Galileo support in Svepos in February this year. And some experience from the test measurements are that we can't see any great improvements in accuracy, but we have indication on that we get quicker initialization time, and it is it is easier to get the fixed solution also, and especially from the tests when we put up the elevation angle to 25 or 35 degrees, we can see that we get a good improvement when we have the Galileo satellites in the solution. A little bit what we can expect in the future. This is what we are doing today, more or less, in applications and in the field. Also the snowmobiles that are running in the ski resorts for putting out snow in the exact right depth in the slopes. But that is what we have today. What we're looking for, we know that the mass market with precise positioning in mobile phones, for example, for this type of machines in every private garden might be possible, and also for what Han also was mentioning, the autonomous driving and vehicles. And we have one important sensor in the cars are the GNSS, of course, even if there are a lot of different sensors that are combining the function. So we are actually now starting up a project together with the Research Institute in Sweden, also some of the automobile industry and Ericsson mobile phone company. And the objective is to enable centimeter level network RTK positioning by large number of automated vehicles or other mobile platforms by applying standard developed by 3GPP. 3GPP is a consortium, or it's a group where different interested parties within the mobile telephone community is participating and discussing and implementing the standards for the communication in mobile telephone. So that is the approach to try to develop distribute the correction through together with the standard that is developed in the 3GPP project, and also use the existing infrastructure provided by Lantmäteriet and Svepos for that purpose. One last slide. This year, between the 14th to the 17th of May, the European Navigation Conference will be held in Gothenburg in Sweden. And we will have one of the focus areas are actually autonomous driving at this seminar. So please notice this, and if you're interested, might be good to sign up for a seat. So we are arranging this together with Chalmers University and Rice Research Institute in Sweden, this seminar. I think you know about this seminar. It goes around different countries every year. Okay, so that was my presentation.
Thank you. If there's a present very urgent question, then we could discuss it now. Otherwise, we have a good opportunity at the restaurant to speak about these things. 5 minutes to go, 5 minutes for my wrap up, and thank you. I think I'll make it. What I learned this afternoon is that positioning is a hot but complex topic, and we had many presentations, really many presentations, 13 in total this afternoon. But for me it was a good and very informative overview. On the one hand, looking at the key player organizations, to look at the UN GGIM aspects and the NMCAs, which presented their work this afternoon. Nevertheless, there will be again key player presentations tomorrow morning, as well as NMCA presentations. Looking back at the beginning of our sessions this afternoon, we had the introduction by Mikori, who explained on the one hand what EuroGeographics is, how the relation between EuroGeographics members, national mapping and cadastral agencies, and the organization looks like, and how EuroGeographics is linked to the outside world. I think this is very important for the common understanding. And looking at the presentation, I could see there is already a lot of existing exchange and also some formal agreements between the parties around this table here and also others. I think that's a really good basis to talk to each other, to have something like established communication, which we had. And what we also could see is that Europe is very well developed in this respect, in terms of technological development, in terms of scientific foundation, in terms of availability of infrastructure, and also in terms of coordination. I also really enjoyed that the presentations were not too technical. I'm, for myself, more or less involved in all these topics, but not to the detail. So, from my point of view, it was very helpful to see, on the one hand, the presentation of EuroSTR, CLG, UPOS, EUREF. This was helpful. UNGJM I already mentioned, and also the national reports. And in terms of the national reports, I realized that all of you are working in integrated approaches. This means, on the one hand, multi-GNSS, which is really up to date. And for me, it was interesting to see that this is ongoing work over all Europe, but also integrated approaches regarding 3D geometry, height, and gravity. So if you relate GNSS to height, I think that's the way straight forward, but it's a lot of work to do. That's what we saw as well. And also there, it is very helpful, or was very helpful, to see that you're involved in relative and absolute gravity measurements. And as you may know, there are at present really very innovative developments in gravity measurement, from quantum technology, for example. We are interested at BKG, but there may be other places as well. I think this is some part of the story where we have to look at, maybe not today, but maybe in the near future. And so also this overview about these national activities, and also the, let's say, national organization of this work was very helpful, and I'm really looking forward to see the additional presentations, the concluding presentations tomorrow morning. And there will be a lot of time, on the one hand, to discuss what was presented today and will be presented tomorrow, but also to relate it to the scope of this event, the PosKEN meeting for communication, for informational exchange. And it's also up to us, to you, to get a common understanding and to develop it in a useful way for all of us. So that's more or less my summary for today. And this will also be our starter tomorrow. But talking about starters, we will have dinner quite soon at 7:30 p.m. at the restaurant L'Entrée des Artistes. The address is Grote Sabel 42. It's very central in Brussels. You will find it in the internet, but if you need assistance to get to there, I can also show it on my smartphone if you need it. So thanks a lot for today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you tonight for a great dinner. Thank you.
And I thank you very much for the webinar users and for those that stayed to the end as well. So we have currently still 11 individuals connected. So so I'm closing the webinar for today, and for tomorrow, please use the link I passed to you, joining to the meeting tomorrow if you want. So thank you very much, and bye.
Bye bye.
Now regarding the